Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Valor Beach City Council meeting for December 6, 2021. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Glenn Gunn.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Notero. Here. Councilmember Rita Swope.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
Mayor Joseph Manzo.
Here.
City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Here.
City Attorney Fred Riley.
Here.
And Councilmember Robin Aki hasn't arrived yet.
Is there anyone on the phone?
Councilmember Swope, sorry.
Oh, it's on the phone. Okay, very good. First, folks, if you have any cell phones or anything like that, please put them on the vibrate mode so we're not listening to them. Before we start, I was just outside before, and I know most of you were. What a wonderful presentation that the Parks Board did, and what great group that we had singing there. Got us into the spirit. So my congratulations to everybody involved with that. What a great way to start the season. So great job. First item of business is to approve the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion by Frank Bankert. Second?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
1 second, let's get this passed and then, yeah. Actually, I know what you're going to say. Leslie seconded it. Dave, go ahead.
Yes, Jeff Davidson, Fire Chief, is here.
Yep.
And I would like to put him in item 4, move everything down, give him an opportunity to ask the Sheriff's Department.
Here's what I'll suggest, make him 3B. We'll go Sheriff 3A and 3B. You can do that. Okay, so you have a motion to change the agenda. Do I have a second to that? Second. Let's go for discussion on Chief Davidson speaking only. Anyone want to discuss that? Citizens, back to council. I'll take a voice vote on this. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Chief will speak on section 3B. Now to approve the agenda. Any comments on approving the agenda as amended? Nothing from council. Anyone from the citizens? Back to council. Take voice vote. All in favor of the agenda as amended? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, with that, we'll go to citizen comments. Folks, the way we do this is the podium is right up here. Please speak. I am speaking about 1 inch into the mic and everyone can hear me. If you speak 3 inches from the mic like this, no one can hear you. So please speak into the mic so that it comes out on the tape. When you come out, just give your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes for any item that is not on our agenda. If it's on our agenda, we will get to you later on, but there'll be a citizen comment point at that point, and we'll invite you up again. So if it's something that's not on the agenda and you wish to speak to council, please come up. There's rules of conduct all around this room here. I can summarize it in 1 sentence. Just basically speak to us the way we'd have us speak with you. Just everybody be good, in the Christmas spirit, we'll have a wonderful meeting. With that, I'm going to open up the floor to citizens' comments. Yes, sir.
Tom Ferraro, 123 Alita Drive. I've got pictures. I just going to merchandise and pass this out.
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't know if I mentioned you have 3 minutes of time when you're up here. We're not going to count the distribution, okay? So it starts now. Go right ahead.
I told Lynn, I said, I'll try to speak as fast as I
Okay.
can. So, again, Tom Ferraro, 123 Alita Drive. So I'm here to ask the council to review, reappraise the decision in 2018 about the fence heights and hedge heights on waterfront properties for the setbacks. I live at 123 Alita Drive. I'm on the water. We've lived there for 26 years. We've enjoyed a wonderful view. When you look out in the backyard, left and right. We had neighbors move in a couple, 3 years ago. They planted some palm trees fairly close together. On the other side of our wall, they were low. And if you look at the first picture on the deck, that's the view we've had for 23 years. If you look at the second picture on the deck, that was about a year ago. And if you look at the third picture, that was 2 weeks ago. You can see, I don't think the intention of the ordinance change was to do that to us, and I don't think it benefits everybody to do it, but what happened is, they got to the point where they were at 5 feet, and I went to talk to them about asking them to cut them down, but I read the ordinance first and found out that it did change. So it surprised me. So I'm just asking if you guys, I don't know what the process is to reconsider, I'm happy to shepherd it through, talk longer about it. I think it's fairly evident from the pictures what I don't think was intended is happening. But I'd like to ask us to look back at either lowering that or going back to where it was to be able to benefit this view. I mean, we live here on the water, the idea of being able to see makes all the sense to me, and the idea that we're boxed off with, I think I even read in the code that it's very definitive about what you can see, and I just think that's wrong. So anyway, I was on council in early 2000, I know you guys have got a lot of balancing you gotta do, but I think this is one that needs to be re-reviewed. And I asked to do that.
Just take 1 second, please. Council, we've done this the last couple of times. I'd love to give this gentleman an answer on how we would proceed with this. He's asked a question, and I don't want him to have to wait until it's our turn in the end. That would require a motion to dispense with the rules so that we can speak directly with him. Would somebody make that motion? Motion by Frank Banker, the second. Anyone? Sorry. Okay, I'll address this at the end. If you can
Okay,
stay
I'm
to the
here,
end.
so if anybody after the meeting is
Okay,
talking.
I'll address it during council comments.
Okay, thank you.
Any other citizens? Yes? I didn't see you. You were Deborah Mall.
Sitting behind someone taller. Debbie Mall, 115 Causeway. I'm here to talk about the lights, the lights on the new sign. They're very bright at night. And I know that they come on at 6 and they go off at 10, but during the night. Once it's dark at 5:30, those white lights are crazy bright. And I have pictures on my phone. I can, with my wide plantation shutter slats open, I can see the sign all the way across from the other side of my house. And the city's always been a good neighbor, but that's just not good neighboring. So I would like to suggest that the white lights get dimmed down at, when I looked at Tampa, so the gentleman who was here, and I sent you all that information from the city of Tampa, our lights are brighter than theirs, and that's just crazy. I have a light meter, Roger and I have been over here measuring the lights. It's about double what Tampa's highest is. So what their policy is 30 minutes before sunset, they dim down, and then 30 minutes after sunrise, then they go back up again. And I think that it has a sensor or something that can do that, or it can be, certainly I know it can be programmed to do that. So I would appreciate if somebody could look into that.
I'm going to address it at the end also, okay?
Sure.
Any other citizens? Yes, sir. Mr. Moore.
Roger Mall, 115 Causeway Boulevard. Just to add what Debbie was saying, I think a little clarity so that you understand from the light meter what we have found when we were 10 feet away, that where it's the round circle that says City of Valor Beach, that's a third as bright as the white digital lights. And so I think that there's probably, Lynn would probably know one, but I'm sure there's some way to tweak the amount of wattage that goes into the brightness of those lights so that they can be dimmed down to be the same as what the City of Valor Beach sign is. Because it literally is 3 times as bright as just the light that's on that side. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any other citizens? Seeing no other hands, I'll close citizen comments and I'll move first. Somebody say something there? Okay. Is there a comment? That was just somebody back. Okay. Next, we're going to move into the Pinellas Sheriff's Office. Do we have a sheriff? We have two people here from the Sheriff's Office. We have our Code Officer, Danny Doherty, and then we have law enforcement. So, Danny, you go first? Okay. Danny Doherty, you go first.
Good evening, everyone. I presume everyone's got a copy of the code activity. Just one note on there, on the second page, I forgot to enter a date. So under 11/22, in between those two Cs, which are sister claims, would be 11/23/21 on that line.
That should be next to 401 Harbor.
Yes, sorry about that. This was a short month due to the holidays. I was also in training. I took a vacation, a couple vacation days. So I only worked 15 days during the month of November. During the month, I had 89 items of activity, which included follow-up investigation as well. The primary actions or violations or activity are broken down into 6 categories. Number one with 14, I did 14 permit checks on construction-related residences. 5 code assessments on houses for sale to make sure there were no code violations, and there were none. There were some landscaping, basically overgrown grass and weeds, 5 which were all corrected, and along with junk and debris, 4, and site debris requirements, which is dumpster with no covers, a total 4 as well. The final activity, there were 6 items, 6 incidents of boats with jet ski with trailers on the driveways, and they were all corrected through communication. If you have any other questions about any of the activity, we'll have an answer.
This is the second month now that you've went with the 20-hour work week. How are you finding that so far?
I'm staying busy. It's pretty much the same. What I like about it is it's able to give me more time to follow up and close the cases out a lot quicker. Basically, if I can't do it that day, I'm finding a lot of success when I come back to work the following day instead of waiting throughout the week to interact with the citizens and get things taken care of.
Right. How's everything going here at headquarters? Everything going well, relations-wise? Good. Good to hear that. Council, any other questions? Citizens, any questions for our code officer? Thank you very much. Have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you. Pinellas County Sheriff? Sheriff, if I may, before you start, I have something I want to say. Don't stand up there. This is good. This is real good. So the other day, I'm like minding my own business in my house, working on an appeal, I think, and I see 1 sheriff's car come by, 2 sheriff's cars come by, 3 sheriff's cars come by, Clearwater comes by, 5 more undercovers. I'm like, what is going on? And then I found out what was going on. For those who didn't know, we had a little action finally in Valor Beach, right? We had a bank robber from Clearwater who decided to come this way. That was a big mistake. Turned down 2nd Street. That was even a bigger mistake. Tangled with the wrong guy. That was even a bigger mistake because the guy started fighting him. And by then, all I saw in the report was that the sheriff's dog started like taking chunks out of him. So, great job, really great job. Thanks for keeping us safe. Go ahead. Tell us the boring stuff now about the burglary.
I'm going to tell you the same thing that we come up here and tell you just about every single month, and this is probably one of the safest cities in the state of Florida to live in. Nothing new to add outside of, that happened just the other day, but as far as the past month, there's nothing out of the ordinary or anything that involves any citizens within the city. Again, most people are passing through using the bridge to go to Clearwater or to go back to Largo, so that's usually where we catch most of the stuff that does even pop up, any kind of DUIs or anybody being arrested for warrants or anything like that. It's not the citizens in the city, so it's a great day to live in Valor Beach.
And looking over the October report, we had 6 incidents, like 3 larcenies and a couple, we had 2 assaults. Do you know what that was all about, or?
Most of the way that the calls come out sometimes, our call takers get them, and as they get dispatched to us, assaults, they couple those in with disagreements, or again, you have the one commercial property in the city, which is the resort up there, and that is usually the only place that we have any incidences where there's any kind of paper, people get into a domestic argument, somebody from a neighboring room calls in, there's people arguing, I heard something get slammed against the wall. We show up, they're visiting from out of town, somebody might get arrested, it happens, but that's the spot where most of your activity is, considering it's not that much at all.
I mean, for the year, as the sheriff was saying, we have 19 incidents so far year to date from October. Most of them there's like 9 assaults, and there's like 7 larcenies, which are the smaller things, and a couple of burglaries, which usually are car things. So, I mean, yeah, it's real safe. Thank God we never see anything in the first couple categories, which is murder, sex offenses, and robberies. So it's really good. You guys are doing great. Citizens are doing great and keeping a good watch out for things. So.
Yeah, and that's a key component. If you see something that doesn't look right, by all means, don't hesitate to call us. That's what we're here for. And if we have you as our eyes when we can't be on your street or your avenue when we're doing our neighborhood patrols, and you call in, it only takes a hot second for some of our cars from Indian Rocks to come up, or somebody to come across the beach. So we can get here quick, and with this being a barrier island, we shut the bridge off, we get somebody up there. You saw it just the other day. If getting away is really hard.
You can run, you're not going to hide.
Yeah. So we definitely appreciate all the citizens giving us their feedback and giving us tips and concerns about people you see driving through your neighborhood or something that just doesn't look right, because that helps us do our job even better and provide you with the best quality law enforcement that we can.
Great. Council, do we have any other comments or questions for the sheriff? Citizens? Yes. Sheriff, I'm just going to have you just step right by that doorway, and we'll have Mr. Kelly here speak, and then you can answer his question.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Mike Kelly, 2740 Hibiscus Drive West. Quick question, maybe it'll be a monthly question. Since you guys had the Gulf Boulevard now has a double turn lane at the light, have you had any fender benders at all that haven't reported to you, or are you getting any accidents at that double turn lane?
As of right now, it's actually been a moot point. People are actually paying attention a lot better. I think it threw people off. With that being a major intersection the way it is, it's kind of difficult to let people know that it's changed. Like in residential areas, when they add like a stop sign to a four-way stop, they can put up the orange flags from DOT, but it caught me off guard the first time I came through. But I think that most people now have gotten used to it, or at least they're paying attention to the lane markers, but there haven't been any crashes that have increased, or it hasn't caused a problem. That answer your question, sir?
Snowbird season, maybe it'll get worse, but who knows?
Yeah.
I'm hearing there's hesitancy on merging, and there's people that kind of getting into that after they made the turn and they're getting there and they don't know what to do. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We may have to relook at this after, as we get a busier season here. Glenn?
I think there was some confusion because there's an extra green light up there too. I think we were going back there. The one thing I've noticed though is I have yet to see traffic backed up past the island.
Yeah.
Everything's in front of that island now, and just like everything else, courtesy goes a long way with your fellow drivers.
Absolutely. And I do just have one thing to add. Well, we have Sergeant Smith with us now. Our last sergeant got transferred, so this is Sergeant Smith, who will now be out here leading our squad.
6 months, we'll see. We're doing a big change now. Nice to meet you folks. It's my first meeting here, obviously.
Welcome to the city.
I've been out here since Halloween, so I'm looking to be out here for the next 6 months, hopefully.
We've got our most exciting month that we've ever had, like in the last 30 years.
I
So
came in just in time.
Welcome, Sergeant.
Yes, I look forward to working with you all, and I'll see you next meeting, obviously. So.
Wonderful.
And again, just like the corporal said, if there's anything you folks either call or if you see us out on the street, I mean, don't be afraid to approach, and we'll help you out any way we can.
Merry Christmas to all
Thank you so
the
much.
men and women in the PCSO. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Patty, we have this down here on item 4, down by did we have a presentation?
Yes.
Down here, okay, good, all right. So item 4, we have a presentation of the Florida League of Cities.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Thanks, Glenn. Okay, item 3B. Let me introduce our new fire chief, Chief Jeffrey Davidson. Welcome, and we met a little bit outside and understand that you and Fred Riley have a little bit of history from Haines City, so that's good to hear. So you've got the mic. Welcome.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and Attorney Fred Riley, City Manager Reeves, and Fire Commissioner Gardella, and most importantly is the citizens in the community that we serve. My name is Jeff Davidson.
Jeff, you got to talk right into that mic.
So sorry.
Okay, there you go.
I don't want to be able to see you. My name is Jeff Davidson. I'm the fire chief here, serving Valor Beach, fire chief for Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue District. Chief Mike Burton recently retired after 46 and a half years of service, so we wish him the best. I am in my 34th year of service, and God willing, I'll be here for a very long time. That's what it's all about for me, is service, that we're here to serve the community. So anything that we can do for you, please let us know. We really want to get to know everybody, and for you to meet the people that serve you as well. So I don't have any business cards yet. This is only my 4th week here, but I promise next meeting I'm at, I'll have them. That way I can have some contact information for you. Just give you a little, some of the activity for the month of November from the fire department. We responded to 18 emergency calls for service. 12 of them were medical related, and we have our average response time is 4 minutes and 34 seconds on the medicals. We had 6 fire run related calls, and our average response time there is 4 minutes and 56 seconds. And we will provide an update to you as much as possible, and look forward to working with each and every one of you and getting to know each and every one of you myself. Again, my name is Jeff Davidson, and thank you very much for having me.
Just let the record show Robin Aki came in at 6:22. Chief, I said to Chief Burton, when he was here, I invited him. You can come if you'd like. That's always open to you, that microphone, okay? We can have you speak if you'd like after the sheriff or before the sheriff, depending on the schedule. All you have to do, that's Patty Gentry over there. She's our city clerk. You just give her a phone call if you want to speak. Just let her know. She'll put you on that agenda. If there's some months you don't want to speak on it, you don't have to do that. But you're always welcome here, okay? And we appreciate what the Suncoast does for us, the Suncoast firefighters. And you have, as I told you outside, you've got an incredible group of people, and so I know you're going to be a good chief. So all the best.
Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, now we're on for item 4. I'm going to read this up here because I'm not going to take the paper down, then we're going to do the presentation. So we have a presentation of the Florida League of Cities Certificate of Completion for the Leadership Academy 2 to Vice Mayor Dave Gaddis. And what this is a component of the EMO Leadership Academy. It uses MBTI as a prominent assessment tool that helps in our understanding of ourselves and one another in order to be the best city leader possible. So, David, if you would.
David, on behalf of the League of Cities, I'm going to present you a certificate of completion. Job well done.
All right, we move to the public hearing portion of the meeting. This is item number 5. This is consideration of ordinance 21-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Valor Beach, Florida, providing for the amendment of Chapter 86 signs of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for the amendment of Chapter 86 signs of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you. Motion by Glenn Gunn. Second?
Second.
That was a tie. I'll go with Dave here. Dave Gaddis seconds. Glenn Gunn.
First and protocol. This is the second reading. My feeling, and I expressed it before, was that this was just overkill so far as this goes. And I think there's some other opinions in here, but I think we just, I think the pendulum swung a little too far the other way. So I think it's a little bureaucracy run amok here. So I'll pass it on to you. Thank you.
Council comments?
I'm going to
Frank?
jump on Mr. Gunn's comments about the extra green light being too much. This is too much to. So it's just overwhelming.
Well, I'm going to do something I rarely do, which is to change my opinion. But I am changing my opinion. I said to try and move this thing forward. We put a lot of effort, and Fred Riley put a tremendous amount of effort, and this is not for his lack of effort in any way, shape, or form. I had a conversation with Fred the other day. Every time I look at this thing, and it is 30 pages long, I see something else. And I know, I'm not sure if everybody's reading every word of this thing. It's hard sometimes when you get to the end, but I called up Fred. I said, Fred, I think we banned the American flag. And we did, okay? And we banned your little security signs. I drove around yesterday in the city, and there's like protected by ADT. We banned those too. Glenn sometimes speaks of the law of unintended consequences, and I think we may have hit it here. I think this one needs a little bit more work. I'll make an offer to this council if they want it, okay? Because I am an attorney and I read through this stuff as an attorney does. I'll be happy to sit with Fred Riley and try and clean this up, but I have to join you. I don't think this one is quite ready yet for us. So I think I have to say we have to defer this at this point. That's where I'm at. Council? Leslie?
Things that were in the previous sign ordinance that aren't in here, that I think should be in here, are the number of signs you can put on property and the time you can put them on. So much in front of an election day. This says ballot issues and qualified candidates may display temporary political signs. We haven't even had qualifications for the next election and their signs up already.
You also don't have a sign ordinance right now. So there's no sign ordinance, and we repealed it last July of 2020. So.
But I think it needs a little more work.
It does, yeah. And I mean, again, I took a ride around our city yesterday, and I mean, people have welcome signs. That's a nice thing to have on your house. We'll be able to have that. You're not going to be able to have Go Bucks. You're not going to be able to have that sign. I don't think that's what we wanted. I think we do want to limit the signs, as Leslie said. We want to have a certain limit. I mean, I think a yard full of, other than campaign time, a yard full of signs is kind of an eyesore. But there was a happy medium over here, and there's just a few things we missed. I don't think this is that bad, and it doesn't bother me that it's 30 pages long. I just think there's a few more refinements that are necessary here. I don't think this needs a lot of work to be ready for prime time, but I think there's also going to have to be a break-in period too, because I don't want to see Danny Doherty charged with going out and ripping up welcome signs. We're going to have a room full of people that are going to be very upset, and rightfully so.
I noticed that there's no time limit. As soon as you qualify, you can have a sign out there. That's around 90 days. I don't know if everyone wants signs for 90 days, but I did see a problem with that. I'm probably looking for clarification on the repeal. I don't recall repealing an ordinance because it's still on the books. What I recall is choosing not to enforce the ordinance.
Correct.
So we have an ordinance. We're just choosing not to adhere to it. That's what I'm seeing. As far as this goes, I agree it is overkill. I was prepared to vote for it anyway because we were pushed. The 45 days, someone called me about that earlier this evening. I was on the fence, and I'm going to have to vote against it.
And just so we're clear, I think I said repeal, let me change my word there. So our motion back on July 6th of 2020, actually motion by Dave Gaddis, said to temporarily suspend political sign enforcement for further consideration. The reason why it was done, and I'm going to read the explanation here, City Manager Reeves advised that this agenda item was generated by citizen complaints. We had 2 citizens come in. One complained about the city, actually both of them complained about the city manager asking to remove signs, and in one case removing the signs. One gentleman was an attorney. He was very nice, but very firm in telling us what our liability could be. And he said, I want this to be a learning experience, but I want you guys to fix this. And he worked with Fred Riley, and we did. This passed unanimously. I'm looking at this right now. Beam, Gaddis, Shirley Swope, Aki, Gunn, and Manzo all voted yes to do this. So we're suspended on the sign ordinance, okay? And we need to clarify this whole thing politically, because I've said it a million times when we've done it, and I don't want to debate too much tonight, but you should have a right, okay? I'm not even going to mention the candidates, but there's people who are favoring certain candidates for 2024. We've seen these banners in people's houses or signs in people's houses. And if you want to urge your candidate to run for 2024, so be it. If you want to urge somebody to run for governor, they may not be qualified in the sense that the commissioner has stamped it. I mean, there's a person we're supporting for Congress right now, and she hasn't qualified yet because qualifying hasn't opened, but I'd love to put a sign saying, I support so-and-so. I don't think that's too much to ask. I don't think it's too much to ask to say, if you have a favorite, thing, if you want to just say, whatever, certain lives matter or what have you, you have the right to put that sign in your car. As I drove around yesterday, I think I saw one house that had 2 signs. They had a support the blue and something about a lawsuit. I saw one house with 2 signs. That's all I saw. I mean, this isn't a city, I'll get her next. There's not a lot of people that have 1 million signs, so I think we don't have to solve a problem that we don't have, but I don't want to say to people, you can't put a welcome sign out or let's go Brandon sign if that's your prerogative. I mean, you can put it out there if you want to. It may not be what we want, but Patty, Rita Swope is on the line, wants to speak. She's recognized.
Patty, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can we make that a little louder so they can hear in the audience?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I expressed my concern about other people with legal background working with our city attorney on this. We need only one attorney because that's what our city pays for. And I'm concerned when you start to get too many people in there with different legal opinions. If we need to go outside for a different opinion, then I'm all for that. But I don't agree with that part. I too have been around the city, and there are a number of homes with a couple of signs in there, more than just the one that you mentioned with Back to Blue and whatever other sign you stated. But there are a lot of homes right now with multiple signs. I too am getting calls and complaints about these signs being up so early since nobody's actually legally qualified to run yet. And so there are a lot of concerns from our citizens at the present time, definitely a lot.
Okay. Anyone else on council? Yeah, Glenn.
We're operating kind of in a vacuum right now. I can go with the deferral of this thing, but I would throw out that I think we need to reinstate the old ordinance until we resolve this thing. Because it's ironic to me that, well, we don't have a 45-day limit anymore. We're not quite there with the qualified candidates, and we're operating in a vacuum. So I would, given the circumstances, we're getting close to an election, I would like to go on record as saying I'd like to re-invoke all aspects of the old sign ordinance until this gets resolved. I think we've kind of moved past the concerns we had from the old ordinance, and we have some sensitivities to that and kind of know how to navigate those inconsistencies.
To bring back the old sign ordinance will require a resolution, which we can't do on the fly tonight, so we can do that. There's a matter of what you do with existing stuff. Don't go down this road. You want to bring back the old one, that's fine. We can bring the old sign ordinance back in, but the old sign ordinance was exactly what I believe Citizen Afondulo said he wanted fixed. So I wasn't privy to that discussion, but a deal's a deal, and if a deal was made that we were going to fix it, and now he's bringing it back and start enforcing it, then we're not really living up to our bargain. I wasn't privy to it, the city attorney was. To address Rita Swope's comment, I offered my services free of charge to the city because I want to see this thing get done right. If those services aren't wanted or appreciated, no problem. I have plenty of work. So I offered it because I think sitting down with Fred Riley, he and I could bang this thing out fairly quickly and bring you something that you will be able to vote for. I've been the one who's made the most comments on this thing because I'm looking at it from my legal perspective, but we have another attorney on this council. We can't both meet with him. Whoever wants to meet is fine with me. I offered, it's up to the council if you want to take it or not. I won't be hurt if you don't, so I just wanted to offer it to my city. Council, any other comments before I open it to the citizens? Yeah, Glenn?
Just for clarification purposes, when we suspended the existing ordinance, was that by resolution?
This was. Yep. Resolution 2020-11. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, relating to Section 86-65 Political Signs Code of Ordinances, providing for findings, providing for temporary suspension of enforcement of Section 86-65 Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for codification. Temporary suspend signs. That was it. That's what we had. And that was July 6th, and it has been suspended ever since. Code enforcement has not happened. I know I've seen, signs that would probably violate the old ordinance that were in place, and it wasn't being enforced, and rightfully so. So we were at 7-0, so that's where we were at with this.
So there were no conditions or constraints?
I just have these are the minutes that Patty had, so I just printed out this page. I don't have the, if we had what was behind it, I can print that out, but that's where we're at. So.
I would be in favor of tabling this, or whatever the correct word is, and working on it. I don't have a problem with any of you guys, whoever wants to volunteer or work with Fred. I mean, I've never had a problem, Glenn, when you've worked one-on-one with Lynn or Fred. I mean, it doesn't matter your background. If you're willing to take the time, I wish I had more time to volunteer and do it, but I don't. So I appreciate when you guys do have the time to volunteer. So if you happen to have a background where you can read through the legal mumbo jumbo faster than me without having to think about every line, then I'm fine with that. So I too think there's some flaws in this. I had mentioned the number of signs at the city council or the work session, and I had never seen it in there. But so that's something, because otherwise, on a corner lot, you could technically put 2, one for each street, but we said that wasn't allowed, but nothing in here says that. So I think there are some loopholes that need to be fixed. I don't think we should throw it out just because it's long. If not, half the laws and ordinances and resolutions in any city would be thrown out because of length. Size doesn't matter to me as far as number of pages. And I think we should table it and work on it. Fred's already put so much time into this, I don't think we should lose his momentum.
Are you making a motion to table?
I'm making a motion to table.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Frank Bankert. Open to discussion on the motion to table only. Fully support you. We should not throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is a good ordinance. It covers most everything. The problem is with it being the size that it is every time, and this is me looking through it, okay? And I gotta think that citizens are gonna have the same kind of confusion. I looked through it the other day, I'm like, oh my God, we consider a flag a sign, you can't put an American flag up. Or you certainly can't put a flag that says don't tread on me, or Green Bay Packers. That's not what we intended. We also, your favorite sentence, I love my Chihuahua. I still can't put that sign outside. And I want to say I can put my I love my Chihuahua sign out. It's not my I love my Chihuahua sign that's going to get this city in trouble. You know what the signs are that are going to generate problems. And if somebody wants to say, a Christmas type sign and stuff like that, a religious sign, and we say it's not it's prohibited, or just a general sign, whatever, so-and-so is God, whatever, that's allowed on a regular basis. And I think that's a total abridgment of your First Amendment right. And I think if somebody puts that in, they may very well be challenging you to do something. When we pull it out, welcome to federal court. This doesn't need a lot to fix. It really doesn't. I mean, we could probably fix this with a few sentences, I think. But we can't fix it on the fly, and we can't fix it when it's up for second reading. So I would agree to table it. You could reject it, and then we can revive it. That's the other thing. I don't agree with going back to the old ordinance. That's a problem ordinance. Glenda?
I think we're just kicking the can down the road on this thing. The outcome is exactly the same as if we don't table it. Call the question, let's clear this one off the books. If you want to revive it and start over again, do it. But let's call the question, and then my follow-on to that is, depending on which way this goes, do we move back to the old ordinance or not?
Can't call the question until I open it to the citizens, but we can call it after it comes back. So you can make that motion afterward. Any other council comments on the motion to table only?
Well, I would say instead of calling the question and voting on it, it would be better to table it, because I think you would kick it less farther down the road than if you completely get rid of it and start over. So I think if you fix the problems, you'll get to a solution a lot faster than starting over.
We've been at it how long now? I mean, you can use the existing as a template to go move forward still, but it still resets a clock, you still need 2 readings. You're in exactly the same
And I agree with you, but why not do all that with this one instead of?
Because I'm thinking, my thinking is, we call the question, if it fails, we go back to the starting, but that gives us a reason to go back to the old ordinance in the interim.
But that's, it all started because the old ordinance had flaws. So again, why are you going back to the beginning when we already realized the beginning was the problem and we've already made headway?
Because we understand.
One person at a time, go ahead.
Sorry.
Robin, then Glenn.
No, I said, I think doing that, you're going farther back and you're wasting even more time. And you're talking about kicking the can down the road, you're just putting it down.
The inconsistencies are well noted, we understand how to navigate them, we've played to those sensitivities, and the living proof is the existing ordinance has been suspended for over a year and we have not had a crisis.
Yeah, but then you're talking about reinstating the old ordinance that if it wasn't stated the whole time, we could have had a crisis.
Because I think we need to fill the vacuum, we need something in the interim. It's taken us a year just to get to this point where we're still pushing the can down the road and we're operating in a vacuum. We don't have a 45-day, we don't have qualified candidates. At least with the old ordinance, we can clear up some of these inconsistencies and look at what we've done all along. We kind of pick and choose the major issues.
I think you're kind of picking choosing the hypocrisy here, because 2 months ago you didn't mention the 45 days or the 90 or the qualified candidates. All of a sudden, because a candidate you may not agree with has a sign-up, now you see a problem?
Because I think this whole thing is being orchestrated to get around the qualified candidate. If you excuse my perception of that situation.
I don't see that.
Hang on. I'm going to call point of order on that because I'm the only candidate out with signs. I follow the law. Some people don't like it when you follow the law, but I follow the existing law. Your 45 days is absolutely unconstitutional, okay? So if you want to stick to a 45-day, by all means do it. But the signs that are out are not coming down, period. That's my position. Take them down, deal with the consequences. It's an election tampering. So don't go back to your old thing, because that's exactly what got us in trouble the first time. Anyway, this is a motion to table. Let's just talk about whether we should table it or not table it, and then, because I think we're getting into a discussion of the ordinance itself. So right now what's on here is, should we table it? Speak in favor of tabling it or not in favor of tabling it, and we've all went a few times, so I'm going to recognize Dave Gaddis.
Okay. First off, I'd like to apologize to all of you for the mistake that we made. You shouldn't have to look at signs for 105 days. That's how long they're going to be out there in everyone's lawn. It's not Valor Beach. This is not what we came here for. 45 days, 60 days, whatever. 105 days that you're going to see one candidate signs out there on lawns. I'm going to vote one way on this, and no matter what, the outcome is not going to fix the problem. I think that I agree with Mr. Gunn. I think it was intentional. Welcome to Valor Beach.
So what they'll have you believe is that back on July 6, 2020, I knew I was going to run for mayor again. Now, if any of you knew me, okay? You knew that that decision wasn't made until I saw the Halloween spectacle out on the patio in the back, okay? I didn't make my mind up, and you could ask anybody who knows me. Ask June Van Scoy, ask Debbie Mall, ask Rick Schock. They're all in the audience tonight. Come on up here and tell me if I'm lying. I had no idea in July of 2020. This was no great game plan. I will tell you that 45 days is unconstitutional, it's arbitrary and capricious. Particularly when you let certain supporters put Trump banners that covered their roof and were visible from Clearwater, and didn't say a word and didn't have the you-know-whats to enforce the law, had another multi-millionaire put Trump 2024 banners, in Trump 2024 signs on his property. I don't know, is Mr. Trump qualified for 2024 yet? I don't believe so. So cut the nonsense, folks. This is about tabling. I want a discussion right now on whether we should table or not. You can come back to the ordinance if it survives the motion to table. Yes, we're tabling. No, we're not tabling. Speak only in favor of that. Please, let's keep this discussion where it has to be, and if it survives the motion to table, then we'll come and vote on the ordinance. Robin's made this. Who hasn't spoken? I want to get those opinions, if anyone else wants to go.
Is there a motion to table right now?
Yes, motion to table.
It's undebatable.
No, it's not. It is absolutely debatable.
Motion to table is not debatable.
Oh, yes, it
It
is.
goes to vote.
It doesn't.
I believe so.
Just 1 second. Postpone the discussion for a certain time, you need a second, and it says it's debatable. That's what my chart says. And I need a majority to approve it, so. Look at it, I mean, this is my cheat sheet, if you want to look at it. We can call and look up the actual rules of order. I mean, it might take 10 minutes to find it, but I think we're at the conclusion. If you want to stop the meeting for it, I mean, do we have much more discussion on motion to table? Citizens? Council? Patty, take a voice vote on motion to table. A yes vote will table this indefinitely until revived. A no vote will not table it. We'll consider it, and we'll bring it to a vote on the ordinance itself. Second. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Saying that you can have citizens comment on tabling?
On tabling only, yeah. And you can speak in favor of tabling or not in favor of tabling. Yoli Rodero.
Yoli Rodero from 113 12th Street. And first I have a question, you can answer at the end. Where in the ordinance does it say about qualifications? Because I read through it and I must have missed it. And I did not find anything that said about being qualified over the 45 days. But nonetheless, I do agree that it has to be tabled, it should be tabled. It is, I'm personally really offended by some of the discussion tonight. Who the council thinks they are to tell me that I cannot have a sign more than 45 days on my lawn if it meets the other requirements, just because you don't happen to have been ready or you didn't put your sign up. If I'm ready and the sign meets a qualification and it's a political sign, I should be allowed to put it up. Now, if you, as a council, suspended this ordinance for this year because you were pending a lawsuit, a possible lawsuit, because it was unconstitutional, then this is your result. Fix it, complete it, and put it in. Going back to the old ordinance is about as ridiculous as I can even think. I mean, I'm offended that we're wasting so much time going back and forth. And the hint about conspiracy, please.
Point of order.
Excuse me?
Point of order.
Okay, what does that mean?
Hang on. You have a point of order?
I don't know where the conspiracy came from. It has nothing to do with tabling this motion.
Okay, I don't find the point of order. Yes, let's stick to tabling it, but there's nothing wrong with saying conspiracy. We're addressing the comment that was made, but the comment right now is just on tabling, so let's just talk about tabling.
I support tabling.
Okay, wonderful. John Hansick.
22nd Street. I'm in favor of tabling this. I've read through it. It's still broke. It needs to be fixed. But I'm going to concur with the previous speaker. You're not going to take my First Amendment rights. No way, no how, over my dead body. I fly a flag 24/7. I have the right to put a sign in my yard, even if it's above the easement. You can't tell me I can't do that. You can tell me size, whatever. You and nobody else will take my First Amendment rights away, my constitutional rights that I defended for you.
Thank you. Jim Bensko.
Jim Van Scoy, 7th Street, Belton Beach. Numerous times I've heard this mayor offer his legal services to work with the city attorney. And this council has continuously voted to try to stop that, but yet they keep saying, oh, it's the bills, the bills, the bills. But how many hours have we sat here on this particular issue? How much legal time have we spent on Fred Riley when this could have been settled and figured out within 3 hours? How much money have we paid the city attorney to work on this ordinance when you have the city's mayor, who's an attorney, willing to sit down with the city attorney, work this out, and it still comes in front of the council for voting on? I don't understand what the issue here is, other than trying to play politics, okay? This is all about saving all these people tax dollars. Tax dollars. Instead of trying to beat power struggles. Tax dollars. Remember that, everyone. Tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Yes.
Tony Yatliff, 2228 Pinellas Drive. You know, we've had a tradition here with that 40-day, 45-day limit. I think it would be beneficial to the city if the candidates, whoever they end up being, would agree that perhaps it's in the best interest of the city, of its citizens, to abide by that 45-day, whether it's on the books or not. Because it's the respectful thing to do for this city, as opposed to, hey, it's not the law, or it is the law, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Stick with the 45 days for the citizen's sake. No one wants to see signs for 4 months, whatever it is. So, table it. I am in favor of that.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. Anyone else? We'll bring it back to, okay.
Peggy Gatlin, 2228 Granada Drive. I've never spoken to you in the past, but I just want to ask 2 questions, and correct me if I'm wrong. In hearing you tonight, you were telling me that 2 citizens came up and complained, one of which was an attorney, and you changed an ordinance, or got rid of it. To me, that sounds like you're being bullied. We're being bullied. Can you answer that?
We'll answer it when it's our turn to speak. You have the floor right now.
Okay. So we're being bullied by 2 people that came up and complained. You changed our whole ordinance because 2 people complained of the entire city. And was that attorney an actual citizen?
Thank you. Anyone else? I have a gentleman in the back here. Patty, are you going back to Rita?
I believe so.
I'm not on the council at this point, I'm on citizens.
Right, but that was quite a while ago, so I was just trying to get your attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll come back to her. Go ahead, sir.
David Gardella, 705 Harbor Drive. Happen to be the fire commissioner for Valor Beach. I would like to just say what Mr. Gaffer said. If we have some civility here, that we can have the two candidates, or whoever is going to be running for election, abide by the 45-day. I mean, I find it ironic. You live in a city, you can't put a boat trailer in your front yard, you can't put an RV in your front yard, you can't park on the street, but we're going to allow littering basically for 3-4 months of every 4-year election cycle. And that's excessive. Whether it's 45 days, 30 days, 60 days, we've got to come up with something other than what we are able to do at this point. It just goes against what you expect the city of Valor Beach to provide for its residents. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Debbie Mull.
Debbie Mull, 115 Causeway. I'm in favor of tabling this. I'm a little bit disappointed because you guys are all focusing on political signs. There's much more involved in our community than just political signs, and y'all did this with the sign you put out front. Nobody stopped to think, oh, we put a digital sign in front of City Hall. Now, what have we done? We've opened up Pandora's box. We're again being very short-sighted, and you all are only thinking about the political signs. We live here 365 days a year, and we need a sign ordinance that covers all of that. And the gentleman, by the way, because I've spoken with him, because he was originally helping Rick and myself with the umbrella suit before you filed yours, Mr. Mayor, he is a constitutional law attorney. And he is a resident of our city, and he's a very brilliant man, so he knows from whence he speaks, and I think we should be listening to him. And I don't think that we should bring back the old motion, because the old statute, we're going to be in legal trouble there if we do that, and we'll just make more work. But I want you all to quit discussing. I think that the qualification period ends December 15th. What are we, 9 days, 10 days away from that? Y'all need to look beyond 10 days, for heaven's sake. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm going to bring it back to the council. Did Rita want to speak? Go to her first. She had her hand up. This is on tabling now, so let's confine this discussion to tabling. You're in for or against tabling?
Councilmember
Hold
Swope,
this question.
did you want to speak?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Anyone else on tabling the motion?
I would say that I love to listen to the citizens, and they seem to all favor tabling, as in there's something wrong, we need to fix it. So I think we should honor what the citizens are saying and say that we may not like the ordinance we have now, there may need to be things added, there may need to be things taken away, but the problem is it's not ready right now, so whatever that is, we need to fix it, and that's what tabling would do.
Yeah, I'm in favor of your tabling motion. I'm not in favor of going back to the old thing. There is no such 45-day rule. That's a construct of Bel Air Beach. Wake up, people. Wake up. You're coming up here and giving away your First Amendment rights that guys like John Hanzik fought for and some of his comrades died for. You're giving that up? City has one lawsuit on trampling of federal rights, and you want to have more? Taking signs out of the ground? We got in this trouble because our city manager went out and ripped signs out of the ground, political signs. That's how we got there.
Mayor, I want to make one thing
Okay,
clear.
go ahead.
I did not take anyone's signs. There was a complaint that was made. You keep saying I took somebody's signs. I didn't take anybody's signs. I went to the individual, told the gentleman the code, and explained to him that there was a complaint and there was a 45-day. I have never touched anyone's signs, but you continue to say that, so make sure you have your facts before you say something.
Okay, here's a fact. Under color of title, you asked it to remove a sign, and under threat of the code. And that's a federal 1983 offense, and that's what Mr. Athandoulos was going to sue us for. I don't know the man, I've never met him, and I don't think I ever spoke with him, although I do think he came to our council meeting once, but I didn't speak to him directly. I don't know him, I wouldn't know him if he was here tonight. But that's what got us to table this, along with Mr. Levitz, who twice was told to remove his signs. And when they told him to take one sign out, he put two in. Now that's courage. So, I'm all for a table. Anybody else want to table this before? I'm going to call this as a voice vote. I want people to go on record on this one. So, not a single, I'll call the roll. I'm sorry, Patty. Anyone else before we bring it? Robin has the last word, of course, because she brought it.
Let's go ahead and vote.
So here we have a motion to table this. Motion to table will postpone this item 5 indefinitely until it's revived. And then I will ask you afterwards if you wish for me, as Glenn Gunn does all the time, to work with the city manager. Do you want me to work free of charge with your city attorney? If the answer is no, believe me, I'm not hurt. I got a lot to do right now. Patty Gentry, please call the roll. A yes vote tables it.
Councilmember Aki,
Yes.
Councilmember Bankard,
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn,
Nay.
Councilmember Notero,
Yes.
Councilmember Swope,
Excuse me, nay.
Vice Mayor Gaddis,
Yes.
Mayor Manzo.
Yes. So it passes, the table passes 5-2. It's not an agenda item. I made an offer. I'd like to know how people wish for me to proceed, if you wish for me to proceed. I will work with the city manager in trying to clean this up before our next council session, which is in January, providing he has the time. That's free of charge, my donation to the city of Valor Beach, because I love you. Patty, call the roll. That's my offer to help the city attorney fix this, fix any deficiencies.
I have a question.
Yes?
Are you going to shorten it, I hope? If you work
I'll do my best. I've heard your comments, and you know I respect them, and I will do what we can do. I think maybe some of this we might be able to put into the resolution itself and take out. That's just, I think we might be able to do that, Mr. Riley, and not, some of the law and stuff like that. We'll see. But I'll do my best, and I don't guarantee you I'll have it done for January 1st, but I'm going to do my best. Okay?
Ready?
Yeah, just ask. It's yes, no. You want me to help or not? It's real simple.
Councilmember Aki,
Yes.
Councilmember Bankard,
Yes.
Councilmember Gunn,
Nay.
Councilmember Notero,
Nay.
Councilmember Swope,
Nay.
Vice Mayor Gaddis,
Nay.
Mayor Manzo.
Yes, so it's 4-3 against, and Fred, you're on your own. I tried. Okay, so you can revise it if you wish. We'll meet with this again. Typically what we do, if we're going to revise an ordinance, we meet in a work session first and then bring it out. There's no more work sessions this year, so the next work session will be in January, probably mid-month sometime, and then we will take it to the February meeting. In the meantime, if anybody wants to try and revive the old one, be my guest. You better be talking about what you're going to do with all the existing stuff too. That's just a suggestion, not a request. Okay, that concludes item 5. Anybody need a break or 1 hour in? Good. Item 6. Consideration of ordinance 21-08, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Valor Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to section 2-63D of the City Code of Ordinances pertaining to addressing the City Council, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to section 2-63D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict with herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. This is regarding discussion of pending litigation or prospective litigation in council sessions. First, a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Dave Gaddis. Second.
Second.
Second by Leslie Notero. It's open for discussion. Dave Gaddis.
Motion to table.
Motion to table. Okay. Second on the motion to table?
Second.
Councilmember Swope, second.
12 seconds, okay. Discussion on motion. Glenn, I saw you looking at Roberts. Did anything change from my understanding?
No.
Okay, so we do have discussion.
No, what I'm saying is, my understanding is motion to table is not debatable. The motion to what's following is debatable, but the
Okay.
motion to table is not.
Mr. Riley, do you know offhand, before we have to take a call time out and research it?
You have a parliamentarian and a master chief there.
It's debatable.
debatable, and would you speak into the microphone?
It is, so the parliamentarian John Hanzik is saying it's debatable. Are we accepting it, folks? I can stop the meeting for 5 minutes and we can look through the book. It's not that hard, or 10 minutes. I mean, I don't want to have an improper discussion, but I don't want to cut off a discussion, so.
Well, you just had a discussion for half an hour on a motion to table, so at the least, I'd say be consistent.
Okay.
If you want to be 1,000% sure, then stop the meeting and we'll look at the Roberts rules and we'll clarify it. That's the thing to do. I would go for act consistent with what you've done this evening.
Let's do it that way, okay?
That's my
We'll fix it
suggestion
for the next time.
to the entire council.
So we have Dave Gaddis making the motion and Dave Gaddis making a motion to table it. So Dave Gaddis, you have the floor.
I have no comment.
Anyone else on motion to table?
Yes.
Yes.
I just looked up Robert's Rules of Order for Dummy. A motion to lay on the table.
I take offense at that.
Is it debatable?
It is not debatable.
Not debatable.
All right, so that's it then. It's not debatable. We have a motion to table. Patty, pull the roll on that one.
Councilmember Gunn?
Nay.
Councilmember Notero?
Nay.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Councilmember Aki?
Nay.
Councilmember Bankard?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Gaddis?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Nay. So it fails 5-2. We'll have discussion. Back to Dave Gaddis.
Okay, I will stand behind my initial, the initial authoring of this. I think that discussing pending and prospective litigation is inappropriate in a public forum. I think that it puts us in danger, and I'm going to vote for this.
Anyone else?
I would agree exactly with what Vice Mayor Gaddis said.
So the reason why this is here is because, in my legal opinion, the existing rule that we have is unconstitutional. And why is it unconstitutional? I explained this at the work session, explained this last time. And amazingly, some people said, yeah, I hear you, but I don't trust you. Well, you should trust me because I'm going to read you the federal law in a second. The audience, the citizens, are permitted to speak about pending litigation. This is what's known as a limited public forum, and I'll keep my constitutional law class real brief. It's a limited public forum. If you notice, you come in here, there's certain rules, okay? You can't hold up a sign, for instance. We can make those rules. You can hold up a sign on the sidewalk, but you can't do it in here. You can't come in here and swear and curse and yell. You can't do that, right? Even we do that, we get in trouble, we get points of order, all right? Citizens have spoken about pending litigation in a public forum. They've come to that mic and spoke. Yet, people up here are squelched. We didn't make this law. This council did not make this law. This goes way back, okay? And it was a bad law then, it's a bad law now, it's unconstitutional. This emanates from the fact that I wanted to make a motion regarding pending litigation. I was told I can't do it, and if I did do it, it was a violation, and everything in the world was going to happen to me. I'm a lawyer. I can get disbarred if I start breaking ordinances and rules. But I wasn't going to test it. But I am going to test the law, legally, because this is not good. You do not lose your rights when you come up here, and I've been preaching this for 3 years now. You do not give away your rights when you become an elected official. I have just as much rights to speak on an issue as you do. Now, there's a thing called strict scrutiny. When you take away First Amendment right, there's strict scrutiny. And what that says is it has to be a compelling government interest, narrowly tailored law to achieve that goal. Compelling government interest, like we can't live without it. You know what our compelling government interest was, folks? This might cost us money. You might say the wrong thing, but our city manager went out and gave an interview to the newspaper and said the wrong thing. Dug us deeper, in my opinion. And guess what? He's not prohibited from doing that. And we could go out and give him an interview with the newspaper, but we can't speak in here, the public forum, that we chair. That's wrong. It's not only wrong, it's illegal. Patty, add this again to the verbatim, okay? I can give you a copy of it if you'd like, okay? So here's what the federal law states. Quote, you go from here, Patty. Section 1983, Civil Action for Deprivation of Rights. Every person who under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law, suit, in equity, or other proper proceeding for redress. End quote, end of quote. Those are the statement. You're violating the federal law. I am your mayor. These are our council members. Here's our vice mayor. They have every right to speak about a lawsuit. The compromise, what I wanted, was to say that the city attorney, if we're going to speak, should give us a warning, just to remind us that, kind of like the Miranda warnings, anything you say can, will, and will be held against you or can held against the city. That's what we were asking for. But what we've got here on this thing doesn't fix that problem. It still prohibits us. In fact, in passing this ordinance, we all broke the law not too long ago when we had a lawsuit here and we had what was known as a shade meeting. Because according to our current procedure, we're not allowed to discuss lawsuits. We all broke the law, our ordinance. I mean, this is beyond ridiculous. John Hanzik, I can salute you. You come up here and you say that you fought and died for, your friends fought and died for this, you did too. And we're giving these rights away, and we're banning people from speaking. This isn't China, this isn't North Korea, this isn't some third world republic. This is Valor Beach, United States of America. We're going to repeal this law one way or the other. I'm begging you, and I don't beg anyone, to do it the easy way and repeal the law. Tonight's motion should be, we passed the first time, this needs to be defeated. You will not correct the problem by passing item 6. You will continue to have an illegal law on your books. I have been victimized by this law. And anyone else who comes up here who wants to speak on this council will be victimized by it. I cannot and will not let that stand in my city. Because the next group of people that are coming up here will be subject to the same bad law. Number 6 needs to be voted no. I yield.
And I would like to ask, why do you think not passing this is better than passing it? Whenever you clearly state that we broke the law during a shade meeting, and this ordinance will allow us to have that shade meeting. But you're saying, no, don't pass it at all. Keep it the way that it is. It doesn't make any sense at all. I'm split.
I'll answer your question. You can't be a little bit pregnant, okay? This thing is still unconstitutional for the reasons I just gave. Yes, we can have a shade meeting, and we still can't speak about litigation. But citizens can come up here and speak about it. We have the right to rebut citizens or give them additional information. Somebody came before, asked some questions. I'm going to answer your questions at the end of the night. I'm sorry you have to wait this long. I was trying to do it quicker, but we have the right to rebut what you say up here. Anytime you have an imbalance where one group in the same venue can do stuff and another group can't do it, I mean, you don't have to go to law school to know that that's not right. That's what's wrong with it, Dave. It's unconstitutional. And the reason why you want to do it is to save money. Let me quote Glenn Gunn, who said it not once, but twice. We have insurance for this. That's our attitude here. We have insurance for it. So what are you worried about if we have insurance? What are you worried, that I'm going to say the wrong thing? Or I'm going to say something you don't like? Now see, that's suppression of free speech, folks. And I'll fight to the death for that. Because I never served, I never had the privilege of serving in the armed forces, but that's what people did, okay? And I'll be damned if I'm going to just give that up right away. I'm not giving any of my amendment rights away. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and I'm saying you're making it far more difficult than it has to be. You have two choices. You don't like either one. There's no third option until this vote goes one way or the other.
Right, repeal the law. It's real simple. Repeal the law. You don't need this law. This is a vestige of prior administrations, prior city attorney. No one in this room has any hands in this that I know of, okay? I mean, Leslie, I don't know when this passed, so I'm not sure. You do have quite a history on council, but I think this was even before you started with council. This is an old law, and it's a bad law. It's just one of many, but it's a bad law. You get rid of it. You don't try and fix it. It's no good. You're not going to make it constitutional by saying we can have a shade meeting. We still have the problem. I have a motion I want to bring. It concerns you, concerns Rita Swope, concerns Glenn Gunn, and I can't bring that motion. And I've been trying to bring that motion since October. And I have a letter from the city attorney threatening me that don't bring it. I gotta advise you, don't bring it. That's what it says, basically. It's a public record, ask for it. You can get it. Patty will give you a copy. So, how can I tell you that's okay?
Mayor?
Yes?
It talks about discussing pending litigation in accordance with section 286.011 sub 8 of Florida statutes.
Right.
Which says, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 1, which talks about open meetings, any board or commission of any state agency or authority, blah, 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 may meet in private with the entity's attorney to discuss pending litigation to which the entity is presently a party before a court or administrative agency, providing that the following conditions are met. The entity's attorney shall advise the entity at a public meeting that he or she desires advice concerning the litigation. The subject matter of the meeting shall be confined to the settlement or negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation expenditures. The entire session shall be recorded by a court reporter, So there's nothing unconstitutional about not discussing litigation in an open meeting. It's provided under the Florida statutes that we can have.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying, Leslie. I totally agree with what you just read. That's the shade ordinance. Okay, so for everybody and the citizens, everything we do, I can't pick up the telephone and call Frank Bankard and say, hey Frank, let's talk about Tuesday's meeting or Monday's meeting. I can't do it, it's illegal, okay? He can't do it to me. Everything we do under Florida law has to be done in public, which is why we have these extended debates, because we can't talk on the outside, okay? There is a time, and it's very, very narrow, which Leslie Matera just read, that we can go in the conference room or actually dismiss the citizens for a temporary basis, bring the court reporter, and speak about something. And that's lawsuit litigation, that's pending, settling, strategy. That we can do. Okay, that makes sense, right? Because if I had to discuss this with everybody here in public, like our opponents would know exactly what we're thinking, which is not a good idea. That's not what I'm talking about. Although that's illegal right now. Okay, that needs to be corrected. Okay, because we can't have that shade meeting, even though get this, folks, the Florida Senate and legislature gives us the right to have it, and Valor Beach said, no, we don't want to do that. Why do you think they gave that to you? They gave that to you so you could settle litigation. Okay, that's not the problem. The problem is we are still leaving the provision here where the citizens can come in and speak about a lawsuit, and we can't say a word. This is a limited public forum. We all have the same rights here. We all play pretty much by the same rules. We have unlimited time, we limit the citizens' time, that's actually constitutional. But if a citizen comes up and wants to speak about, well, we have a citizen speaking about growth and palm trees that are too high, we have the right to rebut that. Well, why can't we do it on a lawsuit? Again, the answer given, the compelling state reason is, oh, we might say the wrong word and get us into a lawsuit or make the lawsuit worse. We got into the lawsuit because people said the wrong words, okay? Not this lawsuit, I'm not talking to anyone in particular. That's how we got to a lawsuit, because somebody said the wrong words in the city or did something wrong. So if somebody comes up here and speaks about something, we have the right to speak back. And yes, we were going to put a provision where the city attorney should just read the warning to us saying, if you're going to speak, think twice before what comes out of your mouth because you might hurt the city. I don't think anybody wants to hurt the city. Nobody's out here to sabotage the city. We sure as hell have that right. If a citizen comes up here and speaks about it, we have that right. And if you don't see that, then you don't understand the Constitution. You're violating the oath you swore when you swore into your position to uphold the Constitution. First Amendment right, freedom of speech. And I will tell you, there's no higher right than the freedom of political speech and the freedom of religious speech. So watch it when you trample those. Counsel?
So to me, I agree with everybody should have the right to speak. Just because you have the right to speak doesn't mean you should. That's a personal thing, but everybody should still have the right. So I'm all for that part of it, to have the right to speak. I think we need to fix that problem with the shade, that we should be able to have a shade meeting if we need it, even if we never use that. So this, I think, also needs work. I know we already shut down a motion to table it, so I guess in that case, we'd have to vote no on it and then put it back on the drawing board. Is that the process, just to clarify for me?
Yeah, but here's my take on this, okay? We got an election coming up in March. I may or may not be sitting in this chair after March. You're running out the clock on me here. I'm not gonna get to bring this motion. Because if we table this, or we don't fix this, and we don't repeal this, and I can't bring that motion, no one can bring that motion as a citizen. So I've already been stopped from bringing the motion. And this is a unique situation, folks, because no citizen could ever challenge this at this point. Only somebody up here who's been denied their right to speak. And in your case, it's yours truly who's been denied the right to speak. I don't like that. I did not, and I've said this before, sign away my rights when I became mayor, council member, vice mayor. We didn't sign away our rights. I don't give up any rights. I don't know what else to say. 6 does not correct the problem. It is not acceptable to me. Still can't bring the motion, but we will vote for it tonight, yea or nay, so.
Mayor?
Yes?
Councilmember Swope?
Okay, I'll have Rita Swope, and then Glenn Gunn.
Yes, I would actually like to hear from our city attorney and get his legal advice on it, because we're hearing a lot of other stuff, but since he's our actual attorney for the entire city, I'd like to hear from him.
Okay, I'm going to have Glenn Gunn, then I'm going to move to city attorney. Glenn Gunn.
I just wanted to say that in my 26 years in the military, Master Chief, Uncle Sam tried to cash my check no less than 4 times, and I would be at the head of the line with you to protect First Amendment rights. I'm not quite sure we're at that abyss right now. My statements about insurance is because that gives us the freedom to make decisions without being pressured or swayed. And we do our best to make informed, conscious, intelligent decisions and not be swayed or pressured by threats of legal action or whatever. And that's where I leave it. Thank you.
Fred Riley.
I would like to make several comments. First, the measure that's before the council this evening was changed on first reading. It was changed to include the prohibition against prospective litigation. So to fully understand this, you have to understand a couple things. One, the original version of this referred to pending or prospective litigation, okay? The state law authorizes, as has been said, a shade meeting, which is what is called for in section 286.0118. The effort in trying to revise this was to make the city's ordinance consistent with the state law and make it and clarify that. So there was absolutely clarity that you can meet the shade meeting. I will disagree with Mayor Manzo that the previous shade meeting was illegal. I don't think it was illegal. I think it was consistent with state law. And, you know, I will not backtrack from that one. Having said that, the original version of this allowed you as a council, if this was passed, to discuss prospective litigation. The stumbling block in the discussion this evening is about prospective litigation. So I'm going to say several things related to just prospective litigation. The first one is prospective litigation. It is a beauty in the eye of the beholder type concept. If there's a dangerous condition that somebody becomes aware of, is that prospective litigation? Arguably it is. That's different from somebody got hurt and because they stumbled on a city piece of property and they broke their arm and now they may file a lawsuit against the city. The difference is one's a dangerous condition, the other is somebody got hurt in an accident because potentially due to a condition that the city didn't correct. The object of the original version that I presented was to give the council the ability to discuss things so that as the principal thing I was focused on was how do you address as a council the potential for there to be problems that you people see and you're taking some action so that you can prevent a dangerous condition. To me, that's a very good sense type approach to doing things. The prohibition part that was in the original code provision is arguably is a unconstitutional restriction. And I would say in all likelihood it is an unconstitutional restriction because you are prohibiting something. And the First Amendment is very much dependent on being able to discuss ideas in the marketplace. And this is one of the principal marketplaces that the Constitution envisions, is there to be a discussion of ideas in a public setting and the best idea wins. That's the foundation of constitutional or First Amendment law. So I'm not particularly receptive to the current version of this that includes prohibiting prospective litigation. The original or the version that I submitted before it was changed would allow prospective litigation to be discussed, and there would be a warning of sorts from the city attorney about making admissions against interest. So let me go back to my two examples. You have no accident and you have a dangerous condition, and the council wants to discuss what action should be taken because there's a dangerous condition. That should be a freewheeling discussion because nothing's happened yet. Second example is somebody tripped on the carpet that was, actually they tripped on my cord because I didn't put the chair there, okay? And I was negligent in not putting the chair there. Well, anybody that's been to these meetings knows every meeting I put that chair there. So, but somebody tripped because I had a lapse of memory, I didn't put the chair there, and somebody fell and hurt and broke their arm. Well, now the discussion takes a different light because you have an actual accident, an actual injury, and potential liability for the city. So in that case, the object of having a warning to the city council is so that you don't have people making what would be interpreted as admissions against interest in a public meeting. And that's the policy thing that you're trying to prevent. The question was raised when this has been discussed earlier, in earlier city council meetings and workshops. How do you discuss things if you remove it from perspective, if you delete prospective litigation? How do you just the prohibition, if you delete the prohibition, how do you do this? One of the ways that you do it, and I've done it elsewhere numerous times, is if there was a potential lawsuit or litigation and it had not ripened into pending litigation, then there's a discussion by me as a city attorney, one-on-one with each of the city council members. That's perfectly allowable, okay? What is not allowable is for me to be a conduit and have discussions with the 7 city council members and share each other's opinions. That's something I would not do. I know the ramifications of that, but as the city attorney, it is perfectly ethical for me to have a one-on-one discussion with each of the council members about something that could be forthcoming that I think that y'all ought to know about from a legal standpoint. So that's really what should happen in most circumstances. And if you deleted the prohibition against prospective litigation, then what I hope would happen is that there would be situations where the city council has the ability to discuss something, but chooses to refrain from discussing it because they don't want to have a discussion where people are taking positions and potentially stating admissions against interest. That is the thing that I hope would happen. One of the points that I will make about this, and it applies to quite a few of the discussions that I've heard in my tenure here, is that instead of looking at the code provision and focusing on how you're going to amend it, there has been a distinct tendency to bring in all these other things and all these other examples and all these other factors. I have encouraged the city council in the past to not do that. It may illustrate your position, but what happens over and over again is instead of focusing on the provision, you continually add factors that make it harder to address the problem at hand, because now there's so many other things that are considered. And the recent discussion this evening about the sign ordinance that's exactly what was done, in my opinion. And it doesn't make things easier to sort out, it makes it far more complicated. So with this discussion, I would encourage you to delete the prohibition against discussing prospective litigation and clarify the point about pending litigation and approve it in that manner. So how would you do that? I would say you would delete the words "or prospective litigation" and keep the rest of it the same. That's my recommendation to you.
Mr. Riley, you address pending litigation. I agree with you wholeheartedly on perspective. You address pending litigation that is eligible, and there's very limited amount of pending litigation that's eligible for a shade meeting. You do not address in here pending litigation that is not eligible for a shade meeting, a la my motion, which you're well aware of. By leaving a prohibition on speaking on pending litigation, I would like you to address whether that is, in your opinion, constitutional or not constitutional.
You're talking, if you delete the words "or prospective litigation," then you're clarifying that the shade meeting provision is applicable.
Right, but that's not my question. My question is, pending litigation, we had this very discussion on existing pending litigation. 3 citizens came forward, took a mic. One of them actually got sued because of what they said, okay? And that was unallowed to be rebutted because of this prohibition that we have in here. My point to you is, and what I just spent half an hour explaining to everybody constitutionally, is if a citizen can come up here and give their opinion on pending litigation, is not eligible for a shade meeting, then the people up here should too. You're saying it's okay for prospective. My argument to you is it's also okay for pending. And I'm asking you as city attorney whether you believe it's constitutional to prohibit pending litigation from being discussed when it doesn't otherwise qualify for a shade meeting.
I think you're splitting hairs. I would apply the shade meeting provision of section 286.0118.
So some stuff can be discussed on pending litigation and other stuff can, but a citizen can discuss anything.
Yeah,
And you think that's constitutional?
I do.
You and I differ on opinion. Glenda.
Why would you want to discuss pending litigation in a public forum to give away strategies or decision or whatever? Now going to the next question about prospective litigation, I pose this question to an attorney who makes his living defending municipalities in this area against lawsuits. He is the attorney of choice who's retained by the Florida League of Cities to defend municipalities against lawsuits. I pose this issue to him. His short answer, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. And it speaks directly to admissions against interest. You don't know what's going to be said in the passion of a moment, a slip of a tongue, or whatever that can be used against you in follow-on litigation. His point was, and his observation from making a living at this, is that there are only two people who can determine what an admission against interest is. That's a judge and that's a jury. And his opinion was that many attorneys, many municipal attorneys aren't familiar with all the intricacies and concerns involved with admission against interest. So you just don't go there. Don't take the bait on that. Just be silent and just exercise good common sense.
Let me answer your question as to why. I have the right to bring any motion I want here as long as it's a legal motion. And it was absolutely a legal motion. I'll clarify my choice of words when I say illegal. It's against our statute. It was not against the state statute. We were fully in compliance with the state statute. Actually, our statute is probably the one that's illegal because it conflicts with what the state has already given us. You can't make lesser rights than what the state has given you. So I have every right to bring what I want, so do you, and we've heard all kinds of motions from our council members, and that's what we're supposed to do. You represent the people, and if we feel that there's a valid interest, and there's absolutely a valid interest for this, but it's not going to get heard, okay? And what I'm hearing tonight is the people can speak, but you elected officials can't speak on these issues, because you might say the wrong thing and you might dig us deeper. Well, that is not a compelling state interest. That is not narrowly tailored to achieve the goals. That makes it unconstitutional. That makes it a suppression of rights. And I've been victimized by this one. So I got a dog in this fight. And I begged, and I begged, and I begged. I've been begging for 4 months. I'm done begging. Fix this law. Repeal it. You want to listen to your attorney? I don't know who you spoke to. If it's the attorney who's defending this city, the attorney has multiple sunshine issues in Madeira Beach. I'm not sure who you spoke to. But I'm not taking hearsay argument from some attorney who's saying violate the Constitution. You swore the oath, council member, and I swore the same oath to uphold the Constitution. That attorney didn't swear any oath. Not in this manner. So, I'm not going with this. This needs to be repealed. I can't even follow the legal logic. With all due respect, Mr. Raleigh, you're entitled to your legal opinion. I can't follow that. It's okay to talk about prospective litigation, but it's not okay to talk about pending litigation, only when the state allows you to do it in a sunshine law, in a shade ordinance. You told me that you researched all the cities around here, and you couldn't find an ordinance like this. I submit to you because they know better than us. Because they know this is unconstitutional. Now, if you want to find out the hard way, I'm sure this always could be challenged. This is bad law. This is suppression of your elected officials. I'm not letting it go. I'm not letting it go. This needs to be fixed. I've asked at least 4 times for this to be fixed. Now the clock's going to get run out on this council. This council's term ends at the end of March, whether people are reelected or not. This council will end in its present form, and we get a new council coming in. Some people continue. Leslie and Frank Banker to continue, and Glenn Gunn. So this needs to be addressed. I'm sorry, I disagree with your opinion. Usually you and I are pretty much in sync. Not this time. Not this time. If a citizen can get up there and talk about it, so can we. And if the best you can do is, we might say the wrong thing, we might say the wrong thing on everything we say all night long. That's why we have immunity. That's why you have legislative immunity, so we can get up here and speak freely. That's what it's here for. You're cutting off these people's voices. These people elected me, some of them. And I don't get to represent them, to bring their ideas up for motion. You can defeat this motion. You think it's a bad motion? It'll get voted down. Again, I don't get to bring the motion. I'm not saying anything more. I'm voting no for number 6. It's unconstitutional. You vote yes, it still remains unconstitutional in my opinion. Your opinion is different. That's why there's judges, that's why there's Supreme Courts, because lawyers differ sometimes on constitutionality. I would say, don't go down that road too.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Banker.
if I heard Mr. Riley correct, we should strike some words in this ordinance, prospective litigation.
If we do that, we're not going to be able to pass it on second.
Well, then the ordinance is not a good ordinance, so let's just kill it right now.
That's where I think we were last time, actually. I thought we were going to kill it, but it seems it's like Jason, it's coming back from the dead.
We have our own attorney telling us that it's not worded correctly, so why would we vote for it?
You can make a motion to table, we can take a vote and kill it. I mean, it's either way, so.
I don't want to make a motion table, I just want to.
We'll take a vote.
Vote it down.
We have to, we're debating still here. I still have to hear from the citizens, and then we can bring it back to council, so.
I agree with Frank. I'm going to follow Fred Riley's advice to strike those words, so I'll probably vote no and then work on it again.
Fine. Leslie?
You said you want to strike the or prospective litigation.
Yes.
Can we do a motion to amend this ordinance and then vote on the amended ordinance?
No, because we have, I don't believe so. I'll defer to the city attorney. We have first reading with it in and second reading with it out, and that's a sizable difference, as we just discussed for the last 20 minutes. Your motion, your ordinances have to be equal, and we've advertised it this way, so it's not like we're changing a punctuation mark or something immaterial. This is, I believe, material, but you're the city attorney, you advise us.
It's a significant change, and the problem that occurs here on almost every measure you take up is it's debated 6 ways a Sunday numerous times. So the reality is y'all have very different views of things, and you have very spirited views of things. If you want to make a change to it, it's already been changed once, then the best thing to do is direct that another change be made, it be re-advertised, and you have a second reading on the new version of it. That's the best thing you should do, because that gives absolute clarity on what you're doing.
But if we make that change, don't we need to make 2 readings of that, because we are changing it substantially? I think we go back to the original, right? Glenn's saying yes, I think so. I think we'd have to do 2 readings and add.
If you want to be 1,000% certain of what you're doing, then I would agree with you.
I defer to you, you're our city attorney.
Well,
I think it's 2.
I have to tell you, I do my level best over and over again to try and change the code provisions based on the discussion that y'all have, and there were several of these that have come up that y'all agreed you would go through the process of discussing them at a workshop so that you could iron all these things out, and then you've done that, and then here we are again at a second reading of an ordinance change to amend the code, and you go through another complete round of debating it.
the legislative
So
process.
I'll say the same thing I've said over and over again. This relates to the sign ordinances as well. Personally, provided you comply with the law, I don't care what you do. All I want is that the refined language of what you settle on is truly what you want to do. And that is what I suggest you do.
I'm not going to, as a presiding officer, limit discussion on this stuff. I don't care if we discuss this stuff all night long, okay? I really don't. And the reason being is things do change. People look at some things sometimes. Earlier today, I disagreed on the sign ordinance. I don't want to keep rehashing that, but I agreed with Glenn Gunn. I didn't agree with him last time we read it. You see different things in it a little bit later. And that's the legislative process. That's the debate process. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Florida says this is the way we have to do it. We don't get a chance to try and call somebody up and try and win them over on a phone call.
I fully understand that.
Yeah.
And with respect to the sign ordinance, and I'm only using this as an example, y'all have debated it over and over and over again. You've done it in workshops, you've done it in city council meetings, and I again will say I have tried my level best to be responsive to the changes that you've made. I'm not telling you you shouldn't revisit it and debate things in a council meeting. That is your prerogative to do that.
I think I made it clear that sign, and again, we're talking about sign ordinance, we've moved past it, but I said it when we were discussing it. It has nothing to do with you. You've done a tremendous job on trying to get all our stuff in here, but this is a deliberative body, and it's our job that we said we were going to do to deliberate. And things change, and people see things differently, and somebody suggests something differently. That's the legislative process that Florida wants, and until the state legislature tells us differently, that's the one we have to follow. So this is not none of this is a reflection on you. So
take me out of it. All I'm telling you is y'all need to debate things, and the object is to get it right and to get it constitutional and make sure what you're doing is indeed going to be upheld if it's ever challenged. That's the objective that I have always focused on. It's frustrating, I'm going to be honest with you, it's frustrating to retread the same stuff over and over again, but that's okay because the object is to get it right.
Council.
I have a question. Yes. Is it possible to vote the first, is it possible to set back the clock and do the first round of vote if it's amended tonight? No, it's not.
I would recommend you do that.
All right, we have to go back to round one. Yep. So you can kill it, and then we can bring it up the next meeting if we want. That's fine.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Any other on council? But I'm about to turn this over to citizens. Any citizen comments on this? John Hansick.
John Hanson, 22nd Street. First off, I didn't want to make it sound like I'm the only one in here that served. I defer and appreciate the service of all my brothers and sisters in the service. But on this item 6 and everything else you're discussing, and Mr. Riley just said it, nailed it, constitutionally correct. That's what y'all swore an oath to. And yet, I'm sitting here listening to the debate, and I was here for the first vote. And it dawned on me tonight, listening to everybody talking. This item 6 was politically motivated to suppress an individual. That's my take, okay? That's not right. That's my take, okay? I'm entitled to my opinion. You're entitled to yours. And we can agree to disagree sometimes. But the point is, I don't know how else to say it. I've said it before. Y'all took an oath to serve the best interests of the citizens of this city. And you really got to ask yourself at the end of the day, if an issue is politically motivated, intended to suppress someone or benefit someone, is that in the best interests of the city? And if I may, comments about, well, that's why we have insurance. I made this comment at the last meeting. If somebody sues us well in excess of what our liability is, who's on the hook? We are. Is that a good return on investment? I don't think so. Please, do what's constitutionally right and in the best interests of us, we the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick. Any other citizens? Back to council for final comments before we call the vote. Linda.
This issue was initially raised by the mayor, as I recall, and you brought this forward.
Motion to repeal, correct.
And what we have before us now is just the iterative evolution of that intelligent discussion. And I think, regardless of the opinion, whether we're for or against it, every person sitting up here on this dais makes a decision in what he thinks is in the best interest of the city and the citizens. I'm saying, whether it's one person or the opposite view, that person makes a decision based on what he thinks is the best interest of the citizens. And just because it doesn't go with just one group's decision or concept of what's right or what's wrong, doesn't make it right or wrong. That's why we have a body up here to make decisions. Thank you.
Folks, there's an old adage, you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. I'm leading the horse to water, the horse don't want to drink. I'm trying. I'll quote a line from one of my favorite movies, Pulp Fiction. I'm trying, Ringo, I'm trying, okay? I'm really trying here, okay? I'm really trying. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll add to that. I don't think that repeal is on the agenda for tonight. That is not the case. So what we have is we have old or new. And based upon what I'm hearing from Mr. Riley, which is slightly different than what I heard from Mr. Riley several times before, I believe that he has changed his mind on prospective litigation. I'm fine with that. Unfortunately, we're in a position right now to where there's nothing we can do about it. You either have to go with the overly restrictive, or you go with a slightly lesser restrictive ordinance. But because the new ordinance is tied to this sitting council, I would recommend all council members vote no on this. And we go back to the old ordinance, and then we deal with it. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, Dave had brought this motion. If anybody else has anything else to add, but I will come back to Dave for a final comment. Go ahead, Leslie.
My thought would be that we defeat this one, bring it back, removing the "or prospective litigation" phrase out of there and deal with it that way at our next meeting. That's
Any other council comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, you've been against this for what? I don't know how many work sessions, council meetings.
Since the summer.
I don't know how much it costs to light these rooms, but now we got council agreeing with you. It's just bad behavior.
I will say it again, I don't agree with the mayor. What I will say is, I would rather revert back to what we have and then try to fix it. But the fix may not necessarily be what the mayor wants. I'm just saying, we'll take another stab at it.
It is not what I want. I want it repealed, period. We don't need it. superfluous. We don't need to say what the rights are that Florida gives us, but Dave Gatz is correct. There is no motion for repeal tonight, but that was what I proposed. That gets rid of all issues. Or, alternatively, and the citizens don't have the right to comment on it, I could equally live with that. So that's two options for you. Repeal it, or stop the citizens from speaking about it. Anything else? I'll stick by everything I said constitutionally. I'm not going to repeat it. We can defeat number 6 tonight, but the ordinance that stays on our books, in my opinion, remains unconstitutional. And you just heard from your city attorney that at least part of it is unconstitutional and in conflict with state law. So, garbage on the books. We ready to vote? Before us is consideration of Ordinance 2108, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Valor Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to Section 2-63D of the City Code of Ordinances pertaining to addressing City Council, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to Section 2-63D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. If this passes, it will become our new law tonight. Ms. Gentry, Clerk Gentry, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gunn,
Yes.
Councilmember Notero,
Yes.
Councilmember Swope,
Yes.
Councilmember Aki,
No.
Councilmember Bankard,
No.
Vice Mayor Gaddis,
No.
Mayor Manzo.
No. This is defeated, 4-3. Item 6 does not pass. We stick with our existing ordinance. Thank you, Council. That was a good discussion, very good discussion on this. Anybody need a break? We're now at 8 o'clock. We don't have much left here because we're going to go into consent agenda after this. All right, I'll continue then, not hearing anyone that requesting break. Item 7, consideration of 21-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Valor Beach, Florida, providing for amendments to Chapter 30, Marine Structures, Activities, and Facilities, Section 30-2, Section 30-52, Section 30-53F and H, Section 30-144-2, Section 30-185, and Section 30-191D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of amendment to Section 30-2, Section 30-52, Section 30-53F and H, Section 30-144-2, Section 30-185, and Section 30-191D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. Somebody bring a motion, please.
So moved.
Dave Gaddis, motion. Second? Second?
Second.
Second by Leslie Notero. Open for discussion. Dave Gaddis first.
I refer to the city manager.
City manager?
Yes, Mayor and Council, changes in this ordinance were to add the restriction on electric bicycles on the beach. We updated the section on page 4, store, leave, abandoned, derelict boats, watercraft, navigable waters. And we updated the section in section 4 on page 6, if any dock, wharf, pile. This was all discussed at the previous meeting. And then we updated the dates for the slips at the boat ramp. 180 days right to occupy shall revert to the city. The boat slip, let's see, if owner or operator of such watercraft takes water for a cruise of up to 90 days, that's allowed. And then also 180 days for repair. So those were the highlights of the changes. And we went through this at a work session, and we had first reading at the last council meeting. No other changes have been made.
We've not updated since the last council meeting, right? So this is instead, when you said update, I just was saying we didn't update it. So I wanted to clarify.
I'm just kind of highlighting the highlights.
Thank you, City Manager. Council?
I have a question on page 6, section H.
At section 4, item H, Frank?
I'm sorry,
Maintenance.
section 4, item H.
Okay.
It says any person who may walk thereon such structure shall be either removed or it talks about deck being, or wharf being unsafe. What does it mean by any person? I mean, this is private property, I'm assuming.
I'm looking at section 4A.
H.
H, maintenance, page 6.
Okay, so ask the question again.
What does it mean by any person? These docks, wharves, pile structures are private property, I'm assuming. So how do you get out there and walk on it? It says any person.
Well, it says creating an unreasonable bodily injury to any person who may walk on there. That's prospective. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, the perspective is it's unsafe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when it says any person who may walk thereon, this is private property. Are we going to just force our way onto the city manager, the code enforcement officer, or whoever, and say, well, I want to walk your deck and make sure the boards are all firm?
That's not what it's saying.
You can't do that.
That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is that the dock has potential to hurt any person. It's not saying, this is not giving someone permission to go on private property. It's saying if a person happens to step on this dock, it could hurt them.
Correct, but it says bodily injury to any person who may walk thereon. Any person who may walk thereon. So
Correct.
you have to walk on that dock to say, oh.
That isn't what it says.
Not what it
says.
Not even close.
If any dock, wharf, pile, or structure falls into a state of disrepair and becomes a dangerous structure, creating an unreasonable risk. So that would, it should be a pretty obvious.
And why do we have the words "who may walk thereon"?
Because somebody's going to walk thereon.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but this is private property again.
I don't think that is relevant to this provision. You're creating a standard. The standard is there a dangerous condition for someone that may conceivably walk across there in the future?
Well, that's the better, I guess that's the better question. Who determines that? If I go out there on a boat and I see a dock that I don't think it's safe, okay, but it may be safe, who determines?
If there's anybody cited for this, then the person that would determine it would be the special magistrate. And
Well, I understand that, but I mean, how do you get to the special magistrate? I say resident A has an unsafe dock, okay? It doesn't look like it's safe to walk on.
Well, I'll give you two polar examples.
Let me just finish. It has a lot of wear on the wood. There's cracks in the wood, but it could still be stable. So how do you determine that it's unsafe without actually going on it?
It would be what the code officer observes, and let me give you the two polar examples. One is that there was a storm and there's a walkway that typically would have boards the whole way down the walk, and the structure's been damaged to the point that a number of the boards are missing. So
that's fine, then you can't walk on it, okay? But this says who may walk. Any person who may walk thereon.
Okay, well,
If the stairs are missing, you're not going to be walking on.
Well, let me give you my other example, okay? There are several boards, let me change my example. There are several boards that are cracked, okay? So they're not missing, but they're cracked. And they're cracked to the point that somebody observing them could deduct that the cracked boards would lead to somebody falling through if they walked there on. So that's one example. At the other end of the spectrum, there was a storm, the thing wasn't damaged at all, except a little bit of the paint was chipped off. That's a situation where there's no state of disrepair. Well, it is disrepair, it needs to be painted, but it doesn't create a dangerous structure that creates an unreasonable risk. Those are two different ends of the spectrum. I fully recognize that there's everything in between. And what hopefully you would have, if you implemented this provision, is you would have a code officer that would bring a case if he had a legitimate, bona fide concern that the thing was damaged to the point that it created an unreasonable risk. That's the case he would bring. And then the special magistrate's the one that would determine, based on the evidence presented, whether there was this code provision was violated.
All right, I just, it says any dock, and then you have the words, any person who may walk thereon. I mean, I don't know who's.
It sounds to me, Frank, sort of like the statement unfit for human consumption. It's kind of like that. If any person happens to get on that dock, there's a good possibility it's going to fall through.
Okay, but why are you getting, if it was my dock, why are you getting on my dock? That's my question.
There you go.
You don't have to get on your dock, it's a general.
Right, so stay off my dock, it's not disrepair, it's not in state of disrepair.
Well, actually, I
Okay,
think different.
it may look hard, okay? But it's my dock, okay, and it's sound in my view. So stay off.
This is not talking, this is
It
not
is
giving,
talking.
this is not giving.
Frank, Dave has the floor. But
This is not giving people permission to walk on your dock. What it's saying is, that the whole purpose of this is to keep your dock from falling apart into the water and damaging boats and other people's property. A good reference point is, if you can't walk on that thing without it breaking through, something needs to be done about it. And that's what this is saying. It's not saying everybody's got permission to get on your dock. You're not reading it the way that it was written.
I'm reading it the way it is written.
I'm not sure what you're reading. I honestly don't know.
Hang on. I'm going to move this to Leslie and Tara. We've had back and forth, and we're not supposed to have crosstalk, and this is why, so I let it go. Leslie.
I think you have to read it in conjunction with the first sentence of section H. All permits for docks shall be issued on the condition that such construction will be maintained in a safe condition at all times. This is just what you have to do if it's not in a safe condition. You gotta fix it. Remove it or repair it. It's not like, you have to worry about a trespasser walking on it. It's a follow-on to that first, says your permit's issued on the condition that you maintain it in a safe condition. They have to be read together.
I don't have problems with the first verbiage that you just read, the existing ordinance. The problem I have is the additional language that we're voting on.
It says it has to be either repaired or replaced if it's not in a safe condition.
Right, okay, but what I'm saying, by saying violating injury to any person who may walk thereon.
Well, that any person includes the owner of the dock as well.
Sure.
Any human.
Absolutely. Now, the owner comes out there and says, whoa, I need to replace this dock. That's great. But if I'm driving by in a boat and I'm thinking, that dock needs to be replaced, okay?
Well, Dave and I can attest to this from neighboring docks, that they're quite obvious when four of the boards are in the water that no person or dog can walk on them. I think it's in reference to those. We're not going to go by and be, that nail is 4 millimeters too high, I bet that dock is unsafe. It's the ones that are falling in the water, the ones that are bowed, so it looks like this. It's those, and I understand what you're saying, but I think we're being a little too nitpicky. It's just a general saying that if any person, child, human or not, walked on this when it's bowed like this, they're gonna get hurt.
If it's bowed like that, that's fine, but I've had a resident contact me that had the code enforcement come out and question their dog, okay? And they're an elderly couple, and they don't use it for boating or anything like that. I don't want our residents being scrutinized because other people don't think the dock looks acceptable, is what I'm saying. Dock is perfectly fine, okay? But
They'll look at it and say it's fine.
But they were turned in to have their dock questioned.
And
I
you
said,
know what,
I told them, don't let anybody go on it.
Well, people turn people in because of their grass and everything else, so it's just another appendage of the, like it turns somebody in because they need to paint their house. It's the same thing.
But the language that we're going to pass is to any person who may walk there on. So if I walk out there and say, I don't think your dock is safe.
See, I'm reading it as any person that walks on it would be able to hold their weight and be structurally sound, not that any person is welcome to walk on it. I see what you're saying, I see where you're seeing that, but I think it's written as far as safety if a person walked on it. Not a chihuahua versus,
I'm gonna stop it. Crosstalk. Glenn
Sorry.
wanted to speak, so let's go to Glenn and then we can entertain it again. Glenn?
I was just going to say, it sounds like there's pretty much a consensus for the wording as it is. There's some concern on this side, but I haven't heard a recommendation on how to change it. So my proposal is that, because we have a consensus on this thing, follow the protocol. I don't think we're going to change anybody's mind here.
No.
And maybe just go to the citizens and make.
I will. I mean, you want to debate. Here's, Frank, I haven't said a word, so I want to try.
Mayor,
Yes.
just could we just had a code case, okay? And I think that's where maybe Councilmember Wagner's misunderstanding. It's not saying that the deputy can go onto the dock. What it's saying is, if anybody walked on the dock, if it's a guest of the house and that dock could cause bodily injury to them, that's what that really means. We just had a code case with a dock last month, actually. The dock was in ill repair, and we took it to the magistrate, and the magistrate determined that the dock was in ill repair and that either needed to be repaired or removed, and she determined that they had X amount of days to do that. So it's not saying that you as a citizen are going to walk up to somebody's dock. It's saying it'd be like a cat. If a cat walked on it and got hurt, it's just bodily injury. It's not. I think that's where we're kind of lost a little bit.
Yeah, Lynn, you kind of said a lot of what I was going to say, and I'm just going to add a little bit to it, and then we'll go back and see if it explains it for Frank. Frank, I remember the debate last time, and I looked right at Lynn Reeves and I said, if code ever goes on a dock, okay, first off, the search is invalid, okay, and the summons and everything else isn't going to stand. The whole point here is what generated this was people seeing docks that were in real states of disrepair. In the Supreme Court, they tried to define pornography, and the judge said, I know it when I see it, okay? You'll know this when you see it, okay? Because this is a dock that's in disrepair. We talked about this last time. You can't go and say, oh, you're missing a nail on board number 5, and it's in disrepair. Well, first off, they don't have to let the code officer back there, okay? The code officer has to take a boat and look at it from the boat. If your neighbor turns you in, well, your neighbor turns you in, okay? But still, code has to look at it from the road unless you invite him in. If code comes on your property, he can't, okay? You can look from the street, you can look from the water. You can't do anything more. And I said,
or the neighbor's yard.
Or the neighbor's yard if the neighbor lets you in. Yes, if the neighbor lets you in. So that was that. Now, if it's, the way I read this, Frank, is the bodily injury to any person who may walk. It's just that, any person. Well, is this safe? If my stairs are rotted out and we go, wow, like, nobody should ever walk on that thing. It's not me, it's not you, it's like anybody who might use it. I think that's the way I read this, and I didn't really have a problem with this language. If a code officer ever goes there, I believe I looked at you and I said, if a code officer ever goes there, as long as I'm here, I want to see him the next meeting because we're going to have a problem as a council. You know, you can't do that. So, Frank, I'll go back to you.
Well, I just think the words to thereon should be stricken. That's all.
What's your proposal?
To strike the word after injury to through thereon.
Fred Riley, on that proposal? Two things, I mean, yeah, second reading, and does it change it substantially? I mean, it wouldn't read differently without it, but I don't, you have to tell us if if it's going to kill it, then let us know, and then he can call it as a motion to amend. But I don't want to go through a motion to amend if it's going to kill it, then the motion is...
I'll respond the same way I did before. If you're making a change at second reading, then the safest thing, so that there's absolutely no issue, is to continue it and have it deleted and have another reading. That's the safest thing you can do.
Frank, do you want to make a motion, or do you want to just go to a vote on this?
I make a motion to remove the words to thereon in section 4H.
So before you vote on that, I would encourage you to leave it the way it is. My reading of the legal standard that's created is I think there is tremendous clarity in the way it's written now. And it doesn't create a private authorization for somebody to walk onto your dock. It contemplates that somebody would be walking on the dock. The standard is set up so it says if any dock or structure falls into a state of repair, that's condition A, and condition B becomes a dangerous structure and describes how it would be a dangerous structure. So I think it's fine the way it is. I would encourage you not to amend it and to simply adopt it.
Frank, it's your call.
I'm making that motion.
Motion is made by Frank Vanguard to amend, striking the words striking the words to any person who may walk thereon. Correct, Frank?
Correct.
Okay. We have a second for that motion. Last call, second. Motion to amend is defeated, or dies, for lack of a second. Back to the motion, the question before us. Is there any more council debate before I go to the city? Citizens, would anyone like to speak on this? Back to the council. Last word will go to Dave Gaddis, but anybody else want to speak before him? Dave, your last word.
Call the question.
If you say call the question, then it's actually a motion, so I think you have no comment, right?
Nope, no comment.
Thank you. All right, so item 7 is consideration of ordinance 21-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Valor Beach, Florida, providing for amendments to Chapter 30 Marine Structures, Activities, and Facilities, Section 30-2, Section 30-52, Section 30-53F and H, Section 30-144-2, Section 30-185 and Section 30-191D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of amendment to Section 30-2, Section 30-52, Section 30-53F and H, Section 30-144-2, Section 30-185 and Section 30-191D of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading. Patty Gentry, I just want to say something that she told me earlier. Patty. Everything was advertised, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Patty, would you please call for a voice vote on this? I'm sorry, for a roll call vote on this.
Councilmember Notaro?
Aye.
Councilmember Swope?
Aye.
Councilmember Aki?
Aye.
Councilmember Bankard?
Aye.
Councilmember Gunn?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gaddis?
Aye.
Mayor Manzo?
Aye, passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, we have consent agenda. We have, 5 items here, and items 8, 9, 10, and 11. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read this once. I don't think we need to read it a second time, so in the interest of time here, unless somebody wants me to read it a second time. So what we're looking to approve is approval of November 1st, 2021 City Council meeting minutes, approval of November 15th, 2021 City Council work session minutes, approval of City Council monthly invoice for legal services, authorization for the city manager to advertise for seawalls and boat ramp improvements. The explanation on that is seawall renovations at 7th and 16th Street Parks, renovation of 7th Street boat ramp, new seawall on Community Center East Side. And finally, number 12, authorization for the city manager to advertise for the 12th and 13th Street drainage modification project. Explanation is installation of new piping, stormwater inlets, paving, and curb work as required. We're voting on 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and yes vote passes all of them. I'm going to do this by a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Is there anyone opposed? 7-0 passes unanimously. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 are passed. We now
Mayor,
move to,
Mayor,
yes.
I'm sorry, was there a motion to pass the consent?
I said I was just going to read it once. Do you want me to read it a second time?
No.
I read it once basically as reading it and to pass it, so.
No, just a
Oh,
motion.
the motion itself. I'm sorry, you're right.
I move to approve the consent.
Move to approve. Second? Any, there's no discussion. Let's take the voice vote again just to keep it official. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? 7-0, it still passes. Thank you, Patty. Good catch. And Patty, if you don't mind, I just want to add a comment. We're done with this, and it's a very positive one. I read through the November 1st meetings, and you always do a very good job, I think, with the minutes, but those were exceptional. And I really think that if anyone looks at like how minutes should be, they were perfect. I mean, they had the detail, but they didn't have too much. They were just perfect. So really excellent job on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anyone ever wants to see it, how they should be done, I think that's your example. That, to me at least, that was, I read that and I was like, perfect. I mean, there wasn't a comment out of place. It was perfect. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Regular agenda, item 13, authorization for the city manager to execute a purchase order for the Alita Drive drainage project. The explanation is to execute a purchase order to Klute Contracting, Inc. for the storm drain improvement project. First motion?
So moved.
Leslie Otero, second. Dave Gaddis. Leslie? For city manager? City manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is to correct an area on Alita Drive that we have some drainage issues where it's puddling after we did all the work. And what we're going to be doing, we spoke about this, I gave you a diagram in here. We're going to be putting in new piping behind the curb at this one area on Alita to get the drainage to the drainage outfall box down the street. And this will eliminate the water that's been puddling there. We have funding in the 2021 stormwater fund to take care of this, and we've got 3 quotes. One for $24,843.65, one for $42,000, and one for $75,461.18. And they're part of the packet. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
You're recommending include contracting people?
Yes.
And you work with it, have you worked with them before?
Yes, yeah, actually, he did, actually did the entrance signs for us several years ago, and he's done other things. I've had, even when I was in Oldsmar, he did projects for us. So he's been around, and he worked with us to try to keep the cost down, which is another benefit.
I'm going to put a plug for my street because they fixed the valley curbs of mine and we have the same problem, okay? Maybe not to the extent that they have on Alita, but it puddles, it rots, it gets disgusting in the summertime, right in front of my place. And I'm not sure if it's in other places, but I'm not sure this is happening in the city. But I mean, it's so level, and it wasn't level before, but it was level now, and it's there, and it's just, you know, it's a mess. I mean, it's actually a mosquito trap, really, but, you know, you can't, it's a mess. And then stuff blows into it, and so just letting you know there may be other places in the city, but we're going to get this one fixed right now.
Right.
Okay. Any council comments?
Yeah, I've seen it, it's a lake, it needs to go by.
Leave it? Yeah.
I don't know if you'll be so lucky because of where you're at. It's easy to get rid of it whenever it's a seawall. But,
I don't know if they can do anything on it, maybe just repitch it, but I think I've seen the lead, it's bad, much worse, yeah. Any other council comments? Citizen, anyone want to comment on this? Back to council, last word, Leslie Matero. I'm sorry? Gotta be fast there, Deborah. Come on up.
I
Lady,
ordered
we're
a
getting
red
tired.
shirt tonight, you can't miss me.
I see you now. Go ahead.
I don't have a dog in this fight, but I just want you guys to be aware of this. You may or may not be aware of it, but I'm just telling you because I hear it. There is a big feeling that, all the people on the lead and over there, they get preferential treatment when it comes to these things. And when this came up before, there were comments about, oh, their street's puddling, they get them fixed. Mine's been flooding for 10 years, just like the young man who was here at the last meeting. So I think y'all need to be very aware of those issues. And if you're gonna put things ahead of, I know that we've got the street flooding scheduled, but I've been here for 20 years and those streets have been flooding for 20 years. And so, you have a PR problem, I guess I'll tell you.
Jim?
We spent, Jim Vanscoy, 7th Street, Valor Beach. We spent a lot of money on different projects and so forth in the city. But, you use 9th Street as an entrance to the park, which is one of our highlights of our city. I was never so ashamed in all my life going down 9th Street the other day and seeing the valley curbs. I am asking this council to take time. We don't live on 9th Street. And go down there and see those valley curbs. We're a premier city, not with valley curbs looking like that. They're pretty bad. I don't know that we've had any valley curbs look that bad in the city that I've seen. So please, take some time, go look at them, and then encourage or move them forward on trying to do something about that. That's not good. That's really bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens? Back to council?
I don't know why, and I don't know if the citizen is complaining that the curbs look bad or they're puddly. But I live on 8th Street, we had ours redone, all right, and I think the baffle is too low, and I get water 10 feet in my driveway, okay? And I really believe, and baffle closes at high tide, and if there was a catch basin, probably submerged 10 foot down, with 8-inch pumps pumping out, what's an 8-inch pump? I forget all this stuff anymore, it's like 664,000 gallons an hour or whatever. You would never have any water in that street unless you had a Cat 2 hurricane. But this is just typical rain, we get it, and if that citizen's complaining about that, amen. I mean, but I don't know why when we designed all this stuff, I don't know who designed it, I don't know why they didn't put these catch basins, I don't know why they didn't raise the baffles up a little bit higher, but it's a mess. And we put all that money in there, and I really don't see the difference.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, I've built many a construction project, and I don't know why these people are getting paid before it rains, okay? And mine's nothing in comparison. I've seen Alita, okay? Dave just said to me it's a puddle, and he's right, I've seen it, okay? But it doesn't have to be a puddle, okay? We had somebody in our neighborhood a couple of years ago calling because there was too many mosquitoes. It turned out one of the neighbors or something had like a bucket upside down, and it was, well, we've got that in the driveway, and I mean, it's standing water, and now we're hearing, the valley curbs are a mess on 9th Street. I think I have seen worse. I seem to remember going around lots of times and seeing some that were pretty worse, but I know we're trying to fix all this stuff, but I mean, Lynn, to me, when I had a project, you didn't get paid until final inspection and everything passed out, and sometimes there was even a retainage. I don't know that maybe it's not a good idea on valley curbing and stuff like this to say, you know, we're gonna hold 10% back until we get a little bit of rain. In the summer, that would be all, 3 days. Winter, it might take a little bit longer, but, we need to know if this stuff is level, because if we're making things that are as level as a billiards table, the water's not gonna flow. And Frank's talking some technical stuff here, but I'm not familiar with some of it, but I mean, I think we're a great city in terms of paying people, but maybe we want to think about holding some retainage back and making sure this stuff works, because I agree, we are going back and doing stuff again, and we put a stormwater fee on everybody, and I don't want to see the money wasted.
I don't think in the Alita situation, it's just one little tiny spot in the whole street. Once that area, and that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna repipe it. Part of the problem is not just rain, it's people running their sprinklers 6 and 7 days a week. And that's a problem that we even found on Alita. Having lived on 8th Street for many years, the water level is not anywhere near what it used to be. I mean, with the baffles put in, and the plan, excuse me, for curbs was not to go in and tear up curbs if there's a stormwater project on it until we get to it. Because all you're doing at that point in time is you're gonna end up tearing the street up again, and you're gonna replace the curbing again. So that's kind of what we've been doing, is if there's a street, and 9th Street is probably, I want to say, a year or two away from its cycle, then, there's been money set up for paving and curbs and repiping and putting new catch basins in. So the things we've done to try to stop some of this, 9th Street, we did put a baffle valve to stop it, and people were telling me, oh no, it's the tide coming up there. So I went over and did an unscientific test. I went and got a water testing kit. Turns out it was rainwater or sprinkler water, it wasn't salt water. And I kind of explained that to everyone. Took a couple little bottles, went out in the street, picked it up out of the curb, and then I went down here and picked a sample of salt water up. And, actually some of the stuff in the curb, unfortunately, was,
I remember this,
almost drinking water, because I wanted to see what the difference was with the drinking water out of the tap, and it was pretty scary, if you think about it.
I think the tap stuff came in worse in some cases.
Yeah.
I remember when you told me that.
Well, no, but that's my point. I mean, there was a storm right after Easter this year, and it was at high tide. We had about 3 inches in an hour, and that water went all the way down almost to Goff Boulevard. And one neighbor came out and he says, I haven't had water come down this far since the '93 winter storm, unnamed storm. And it was all rainwater. And if there was a catch basin that water could have gone in and then pumped out, it would have alleviated all that.
But if you're, and people say that to us too, if the water's at the top of the seawall, you're not pumping out anything.
Absolutely, but it wasn't at the top of the seawall, is what I'm saying.
Blame that.
Yeah, Debbie says we have a PR problem. The way I characterize it, I did it in the past, is we don't do well at managing expectations. We start a project, we go into the neighborhood, heavy equipment rolls in, we put down some conduit, people says, oh, the city's here to solve this flooding problem after 20, 40 years. Well, we've been trying to say that you live on a barrier island, there are going to be a confluence of conditions that are going to cause flooding. And we've tried to characterize them, well, how long does it last? Are cars impassable? Is the street completely impassable? How long does it take for the flooding to clear? To try to prioritize some of that stuff. But the bottom line is we don't do well as a city saying, hey, this is not the stop-all, this is not going to solve your problem. There's still going to be flooding when the moon's in a certain condition, the winds are blowing from a certain direction, the tides are a certain way, or we've had rain for the last 39 days or something like that. We don't do well on that, and we need to get better on that. There's also never any admission of whether or not the people who own those houses did their due diligence when they bought them things, those houses, or that there was full disclosure in the real estate deal. So, I mean, whereas there's more arguments to this, solving this equation than just, hey, we need to do better than this. The engineers do a good job, the people go in and they do the repairs according to the specs they're given, and I'm not quite sure how we resolved issues well. It didn't meet expectations or something like this, engineering.
Well, they're all new curves though.
Frank, can you move that mic closer?
They're all new curves by Alita Drive, right? That we're gonna, and I was out there and they were all box cut formed curves, okay, where that's great, but there's curb machines today that would have done the grading. Maybe we should look at better contractors, okay, and you wouldn't have this problem. And I don't know how you people put up with some of that. Your road was torn up for months, okay, and a lot of it was, 2x4 box, then they half-inch plywood, box it, pour it. They pour so many feet a day. You could pour 1,000 feet a day in a curb machine, and you would get a nice, yeah.
Glenn, I remember this issue well with these check valves, and part of it was the city's fault, okay? It was sold in the city news that this was the panacea, this was going to cure your flooding woes, and I actually wrote on this, because the only reason I'm saying is that I remember it happened during the last campaign, and I was the one I researched the valves, and I said, these are sunny day check valves, these are not rainy day check valves, and I explained that. It wasn't initially explained that way. And I think, people hear, hey, we got check valves, it's going to stop the onslaught of Hurricane Irma. Well, no, it's not. Actually, it's going to block it off, and it's not going to drain. You're right, we live on a barrier island, and I think, I think we did get the message out ultimately that these are sunny day check valves. This is only going to help you lunar situations, high tide, that confluence that sometimes just causes our, streets to flood in the middle of August for no good reason. So yeah, I agree with you. I think, we need to just be very, very clear, because people, if they read it, they say, oh, check valve's going to stop the flooding. I can stay here, during the hurricane. No, you can't do that,
Well, at a future time, I think it's incumbent upon us to start adding more town hall meetings, Valor Beach City 101. These are the projects, this is the timeline, this is what our expectations are for what we're going to solve. Let's hear from you, does that meet your expectations or not? We don't want that mismatch of expectations, so at a future time, I think we need to start talking about this stuff.
Excellent idea.
You are?
Any other council comments before we call the vote? Leslie, you have the last word. No last words. Okay. Item 13, authorization of the city manager to execute a purchase order for the Alita Drive drainage project. A yes vote will pass this. I'm going to do this with a voice vote, if it's okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. City manager, you'll go forward then with that project. Thank you. Any unfinished business?
I just have something we discussed about the buoys.
Yes.
I put something at your place tonight with what I sent, just some concepts. What I would suggest we do is maybe use the walking easements as possibly the boat access areas and expand these, but I just sent this to Florida Wildlife Commission just to see what they say about swim areas. So what they told me is, if we put a buoy every 150 feet, and we put one, I'm showing 3 swim areas, but they can
Where's
get,
are the 3 swim areas, right?
right.
Okay.
This is just proposed because it's kind of a. Let's see what the Florida Wildlife says. Okay, so they looked at it and said, yes, you can make them as big as you want. When you talk about the sides, he did say that I recommend you put a buoy on the sides that are going back towards the shore. So what I'm probably going to bring you, if there's some consensus with this, is something where I take the 4 beach accesses and delineate those on the map, and then say, maybe we'll make it 300 foot wide at those, and then everything else will be a swim area, but those areas will be the access without any buoys in them, if the council's amenable to that. So what you would have is an access at each one of the walking easements for someone to come up.
Shouldn't it be the other way around? If I'm using the walking easements and I'm carrying my cooler and my umbrella, which we could use in our city, and all my other gear, I'm gonna stay pretty close to the walking easement where I walk over and not go down. So shouldn't that be the swim area and the other stuff be the boat area?
Well, what I'm trying to alleviate is, and I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say, if you look at this map, let's say Elemenera condo. There's no swim area in front. They might get themselves concerned that there's no swim area. And I would also suggest that we have a discussion with the condos, because this is really who it's going to affect. And, you know, if you went down to like the Valor Beach Club, as an example, if you just took the 3 swim areas that I threw out there to the FWC, well, you'd have to walk quite a ways to go swimming. And I think the intent of the whole situation was at least give the opportunity for a boat to come into shore periodically. So that's why I was using the accesses. And when I talked to FWC, we don't have to go out and do any surveying. We can use, as an example, from 20th Street to 21st Street is the first swim area. That's how we'll describe them, and 300 foot out. So, you know, if you want me to stay away from the walking easements, that's fine.
We could hash it out at a work session, but
So what I'm asking is this kind of what you were looking for with the swim areas so the boats could get in?
I think it's a consensus, or not a consensus, but a good compromise.
So what we'll do, we'll get a little more creative and bring something to the work session in January.
and you can go a little wider on the swim areas, because it's only like a block, which isn't a lot.
Well, I just put 300 foot by 300 foot boxes on the map. I sent it to the FWC and said, this is what we're thinking about doing. We may do more, we may do less. Do you have any problem with this? And what would we have to do to make it work? And he basically told me, you put the buoys out on the end, but in the 300 foot coming in, halfway in, 150 foot from the shore, put a buoy on the sides. So you can delineate that, hey, just because you see this 3 buoys out here, that doesn't mean you can come in behind them and drive through them. So we delineate those as swim areas.
Clean up.
It seems like we're necking down on what we like, but I have a concern that we don't have any feedback from the people in the condos, just like Chris said. And I think they're big stakeholders in this because primarily their area of the beach, and you know, as much as we talk about beach rights and all of that, well, here's a group of people who bought property because they wanted to look at a certain thing there, and I would also, not only their commentary, but you know, some people are more beachgoers than I am, certainly, and I think once we kind of have an idea of what we want, we may want to have a public polling on this thing and run for 60, 90 days to make sure we understand what we don't know.
And my thought with the walking accesses, those are public walking accesses. And if those are the areas, yes, I understand that, but if you could go to the right or left of 50 feet to a swim area, it wouldn't have as big an impact on the condos because that is already a public access.
And what I see is the exact opposite of what we would actually have. The
Right.
swim areas would be the majority, and you would have small access.
Yeah, you'd have four access points, the rest of it would be swim area. But, to be reasonable, I think they'd have to be probably somewhere around 300 foot wide.
So I'm not sure I'm understanding this. I'm thinking you're telling me the square areas are the swim areas, which are very small, okay?
That was what I just wanted to run it by.
If we had 3 or 4 boat areas that were 300 by 300, I think we've solved the problem.
That's what I'm trying to
I
get
think
to.
we're good. But I think we're good, and Glenn Gunn's point is absolutely important. We like it. I don't swim here. The condo people do swim here, and I want to hear what they have to say, because they may have a whole different take that we just aren't even thinking about right now.
Right.
Our condo is me.
Okay?
And I would prefer to have a very extended swim area in front of that to keep the boats out. And I would hope that we could switch it, that the squares would be the boat accesses, and then.
Well, that's
what I'm just saying, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm suggesting. I just gave you this map, because this is the map that I gave to the FWC, because I wanted to get some kind of preliminary feedback from them. Are you going to allow us to do this? And they said, you can make them as big as you want. Just make sure you do this and this. And I said, because they'll probably get expanded when I talk to them. So my suggestion with the walking easements is those are not as impactful to the condos as putting the swim areas bigger and making the walking accesses, the boat port, I guess I'll call it.
I see your logic now, and I like it better. Yes, yes. Because we're not, if Morgan Street we own, that's not a problem.
No.
The walking easements, because this way, Leslie just said it, and every condo is going to say the same thing, we don't want to have the boat access here, give us more swim access. That's what I think they'll say, unless there are a lot of boaters in there.
Well, I was going to make a boat access in front of Leslie's.
Right up to her doorstep, absolutely.
Getting your boat
No, but I just wanted to get the council's feedback and make sure that we were going the right direction, so.
Okay, I think you have consensus, right?
Okay.
You're on the right track. Very right track. Any other unfinished? City Attorney.
I submitted an attorney report, which is in the form of a memo that I think Patty included within the packet. The highlights of the memo are that the qualifying as a candidate for several city council positions is December 14th through December 21st. Pursuant to the charter, the city clerk is the supervisor of elections for the city. I've included section 97.023 Florida statutes, which sets forth the procedures for citizens or candidate to address complaints of Florida election code violations. I've given the full text of the statute, and the purpose in providing that to you is to make it clear that the commission has primary jurisdiction over the election code violations, and the circuit court has jurisdiction as well. The city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney do not have jurisdiction to address complaints of the Florida election code. So I want to make that clear prior to the election season starting. It certainly, with several positions, will be a spirited debate and spirited competition. So this was the right time to present this to the council. I'll stand for any questions.
I only have a comment. Patty, this is a very good memo, and I know packets have been picked up by many people already, but you know who those people are. Some of them are on council, but others are not, we can make sure they get a copy of this memo also. This is very helpful because you're involved as director of elections here, but they're not. In fact, the city attorney is actually specifically supposed to stay out of it for his contract, and Lynn Reeves is supposed to stay out of it for his ICMA agreement. So I mean, this is not the venue if people have any problems with what they think is an election problem. That's Florida, Tallahassee. So this says that all, and I'd like to see if they can get that. But it was a good memo, Fred, and I appreciate it. Anybody else have comments? Fred, do you have any other comments, the city attorney?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment. I think that this, I know it's in the agenda, it is in the agenda packet, but maybe it's not a bad idea to post it somewhere else. I have a feeling that Patty is already receiving numerous phone calls, and this is a good letter or a reference point of where you could direct them to.
Well, I'll make one more comment. I work for another city, and the other city has issues every single year. So the purpose in presenting it to you this year is that it's better for everybody, including primarily the citizens, to be aware of what the law is so that the city clerk is not inundated with calls and demands that she do something about it. So that's really what I was trying to achieve.
And, you know, in saying it, there is a recourse to Florida Election Commission. There's also issues if you go there with garbage, okay? So let people know that. This is not to try and gum up the works. The candidates are all working hard enough to try and get elected. If you file frivolous stuff, there's penalties for that. So people should know that, okay? I mean, if they're tempted to go file garbage, they're going to have a problem with that from the people they file the garbage against. There's legal fees and things like that. It's not just say anything you want to do and try and nail people with false stuff. That won't work. So I'm not their attorney. They need to get an attorney, and they need to consult with the ethics people if they have any issues, because frivolous complaints are not going to be flying with them, I can tell you that. City manager.
Just a reminder, Patty and I are going to be on vacation starting Christmas, the 23rd through the end of the year. So if you want anything put on the agenda for the January meeting, if you could get it to us by December 20th at noon, so she can get it. And Patty's going to be pretty busy because starting the 14th at 8 o'clock, election qualifying begins, and it ends on December 21st at noon. And she's going to be very busy during that time, so we want to try to help her out with any agenda items. Citizens Advisory Committee met, and we'll bring something to the work session about what their thoughts are with the American Rescue money. And we've got another meeting on Wednesday to discuss the digital sign amendment to the ordinance. So they've got some information. Fred prepared something. We've got a couple other cities' digital ordinances for them to look at. And they're going to do that on Wednesday. And Thursday, Fred and I had a training session for the Board of Adjustment group, just to kind of go over the sunshine and how the rules work with the, variance and this, that, and the other. And I got 7 more pages, but I'll pass tonight. And I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, and same to you and your family. Okay, City Clerk?
No, nothing.
Nothing?
Thank you.
City Council comments. Start with Robin Aki this month.
No comment. Everybody have a happy holiday.
Thank you, Robin. You too. Frank Banker?
Yeah, the citizen that brought these pictures in.
Yes.
I actually feel cheap now with the pictures I bring back to the council. I guess there's a littoral right here, I mean, of your view of the sea or the bay. I remember when the ordinance got changed, I wasn't on council, our city manager was getting beaten up really bad by one of the people that lived on 8th Street over that. I think he wanted him to cut all your palm trees down in the front yard too. But it got changed. I wouldn't mind seeing it being changed back. But this is really a block of view. I mean, we got a neighboring town saying that you can't have a beach umbrella because it blocks their view. And that's only up for an hour or two. And then you can't even see out there, into the water. So I really believe council should look into this. I also believe that sign out front should be turned off at 8 o'clock at night. I don't know why we needed it on until 10.
Thank you, Frank.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and your family. Glenn Dunn.
I'll address Debbie and Roger's concerns about the sign, the sidebar also, but something I think the city manager, he just, it's on one of his other 7 pages or something, but as late as this morning, he was making adjustments to that sign because he's well aware there are hot spots. I mean, literally, you could come down the causeway and from those condos on the other side, you had a hot spot across, you could see it. And so he's well aware of the issues. Kyle's already made some adjustments to the brightness, and when we leave here tonight, we need to kind of make a mental note of what it looks like. But there were also some concerns about the scrolling times and the transition and that sort of thing. And he had some very plausible explanations or recommendations how you have to go through a procedure to burn in the LEDs and stuff. But they're already making corrections to this stuff. And let's take a look at it tonight when we go out there, and let's provide some more feedback to the city manager. It's an iterative process, and hey, we want to take the high road and make everybody happy with this thing. So I'll talk to you offline. Thanks.
Thank you, Glenn. Leslie Nataro.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you all. Thank you.
Same to you and your family also. Dave Gaddis. I'm sorry, Rita Swope. Rita Swope.
It's Swope. Yes, I would like to make actually more of a comment to the city manager, asking for clarification, really. There's been some information put out in the community regarding this sign. It's like 60,000, and I've been getting some inquiries from several people to clarify that. To my understanding, the sign cost about $35,329 and some change, and that included all the installation. You got about $4,040 back from the insurance, and possibly still will get more. So right now we're probably sitting at around $31,289. Excuse me, versus 60. Is that correct? That's my first comment.
Yeah,
then
that's
I'd like to
correct.
make another one before you answer, City Manager Lynn Reeves.
Yeah,
There's been
that is
some
correct.
inquiries as well regarding this $2.5 million project on 7th. People are asking me for more clarification on that. To my understanding, the cost of that was around 1.2, and it was none of Valor Beach's expense. It was all Indian Rocks Beach. And also that it was decided by a unanimous vote by the county. So do you have any information on that? Can you clarify that as well so I can make sure the proper information is getting out there?
Well, you're talking about the capital project that was done a couple of years ago?
Correct.
Yeah, it was a capital project from Pinellas County for the sewer system. And it was, your number's wrong, it's $1,780,000. And it was for the pump station in Indian Rocks Beach. They advertised it in early March, and then they awarded it in June on their consent agenda. That was the question. And the consent agenda was a 7-0 vote. It did help Pump Station 95, but it was Pinellas County funds, and the city did not get any funding from it, but we got some benefit from it. So, because there's more pumping capability in the station 190, which is in somewhere in Indian Rocks Beach. I don't know exactly where it's at. So, that's all I know about it at this point.
Okay, was my information correct on the sign cost as well? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you if you answered that.
Yeah, the sign cost was, the sign cost total, after we paid for the sign, some engineering, the permit to the county, and another electrical circuit, it was $35,329.30. The insurance has already paid us $4,040, and I will be getting once the clear checks are back from the sign company, which they should be here hopefully this week. I've asked the finance people to get me photocopies so I can send that along with the invoice to the insurance, because at the time when we started, we were going to get somewhere around $10,000, but because it took so long to resolve the sign, but we are able to resubmit and hopefully get some more money back.
Okay, thank you, and to all the citizens in our community, have an awesome holiday, and to our city staff as well as our city manager and city attorney, have a Merry Christmas as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Gaddis.
All right, going back to the sign, we're going to touch on that a little bit. I agree, it's too bright right now, but we knew it was going to have some problems, and it takes a little time to figure out how to work a new toy. One of my recommendations might be, and I don't know if it's possible or not because I've never seen a schedule or program, but maybe we shift from a white to a darker color whenever you get to that time period. Again, I don't know what the capabilities are, but I think it's something that we can work out. I come home sometimes 9, 10, in fact, 9 o'clock now, I'll be passing that sign shortly, and there may be something that I'd like to see, but I think beyond 10 o'clock, I think that's sufficient. So I'm against changing the schedule, but certainly resolving the issue with the blinding bright light. And while we're discussing lights, there is a street light across the street from that sign. I believe it's held up by a concrete post. That puts out way more light than the sign does. From the pictures that I've seen on the internet, so you may want to look into that. I believe it's the one that's purple right now. That bright purple.
Yeah, it's a different.
Yeah, that one. I don't know why we have purple lights, but.
The county was testing some, I guess they are testing. They had some even on the bridge, the area that we would be responsible for, and I said, no, I want them back to whatever they're supposed to be. So that's what the purple light, and I'll talk to Jeff about that and see from the county. But just to clarify, what we're doing with the sign, we're going to look at, okay, maybe the lettering's red or green as opposed to white or a different color, and we're going to look at adjusting the intensity, because we can do that. But as far as the sign without the digital, that's a pretty much on and off thing, unless we do something else that we can find that dims that portion. But we can work with the digital sign. The company told us initially we needed to burn all what I call all the little light bulbs in there. I may be calling them the wrong thing, but they told me to make sure you burn them in throughout the sign. Don't put stuff stationary. Make sure it moves rather quickly. Right now we're scrolling in about 6 seconds. We're going to do away with scrolling and maybe run it up to 10 or 11 seconds. And I think some of the standards are like 15 seconds, but we're going to play with that. And we'll do some adjustments. I think that'll help the situation. What's it been here? a month maybe? Is that about right? Yeah, so, yeah, we're cognizant of the neighbors, and we're not trying to impact them at all.
But the time is not too.
Well,
hang on, I don't want to have conversations back and forth. It doesn't come out on the tape, so.
yeah.
So the question was on the floor was the timing, okay, Lynn?
Yeah, we turn it on at 6 in the morning, the digital portion turn it off at 10. And the reason we thought that is kind of what Vice Mayor just said. You know, there's people that come home, work different hours, people that probably Robin goes to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, well, she's gonna miss it. But if she waits until 6, you'll see what's going on. So I think as we adjust the intensity, then we can look at those other things. And it may be a moot point whether it's on at 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock. So I think we just have to spend some time.
All right, other than that, everyone have happy holidays. And I hope that you take time to spend some quality time with people that you care about, and also remember your neighbors.
Thank you, Dave, same to you guys and your family. Okay, so I got a few items, just some random things. Just comments I heard from citizens. Lynn, I don't know if there's anything well-founded about this at all, but I'm just going to give it to you for taking a look into. The boards on the walking easements get slippery. Don't know if they do or don't know if they don't. Never been there when they were wet. Please take a look if you would. Somebody was complaining about a submerged piling on 7th Street. I don't know if that was cleared out when we did the removal or not, but if you could just double check. There shouldn't be anything submerged out there right now. So I don't need an answer tonight. These are just for you to stick on the list maybe and see where we're at. Regarding the 2 citizen issues that we have.
Mayor,
yes.
Let me add to that piling issue. There's 2 that Tony Gatliff went out with friends over the weekend, and they were just leaving and barely moved out of where the buoy used to be. There's no buoy there right now. Ripped the whole rear, the lower unit off of his boat. And they went back and they looked, and there are 2 concrete piers that someone has deposited there. I meant to call you about it today, but thank you for the reminder. At the very end of as you're leaving our inlet, you're kind of going around, you're passing Howard. Right. All right, and there's the very end of Howard where it's got the big dock that's on an empty lot. It's directly in front of that, beyond where the buoy was. And I think he marked it with a green crab track marker. But whenever I came out looking for it, I couldn't find it. But yeah, low tide, it killed the boat.
So yeah, I mean, there may be one by the 7th Street area too. So maybe they hit the oyster beds. I don't know, but just have a look if you would.
It's like waiting to be.
Yeah. Just so you know. Okay, the citizens' issues. Start with the sign. I have no problem with us getting the hang of this, okay? And I know we're working on it and everything, but I also want, the part of the deal with this was to be acceptable to the neighbors and everything's going to be working out right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on for the January 15th work session for us to discuss a resolution to get start times, end times, and actually kind of say, okay, here's the way it's going to be done. So this way everybody has an input into it and we get something codified. And hopefully by then we'll get a report as to if it's not bright enough, too bright, just right, and we'll kind of know. That gives us another month and a half. Okay, I know some of that's holiday, you're going to be away, so play with it, do what you got to do with it, burn it in, and then let's see where we're at, revisit it. Let's put it on, Patty, if we would, for the work session in mid-January. This way we can bring it to a resolution in February and at least start getting this thing done. Because, I think we should have, at least the citizens should know, here's what the rule is going to be. We're going to keep it on X amount of hours a day. And let this council pass what that should be. So I'm going to propose that, and I'm going to ask that it be added onto the work session.
And that's the 18th of January.
18th of January, okay. I knew it would be around the 15th. January 18th is our work session. Okay, these pictures, Thank you for staying around. Sorry we couldn't do this earlier. I tried.
Okay.
I really did.
It hasn't changed much. I know that's
Yep.
probably not good news, but.
No problem. No, so, you know, there's two things here, okay? We have a code that we've revised and revised and revised, and look, I like picture number one, where you've got this beautiful view. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then you look at this last thing, and you're looking at overgrown palm trees. It's terrible. But, unfortunately, you're not entitled to a view. That's a legal concept, basically. You're not. So we as a city, though, can say, you know, this isn't like a building that was legally built. These are trees, and maybe there's something we can do with this. So my suggestion is, this seems to be, this is a slower process. It's not like something we can just do up here on the council, but there's legal concerns because you may not be able to legislate this. I mean, we're fighting the folks across the street because they wanted a view because they said an umbrella blocks their view. We're fighting them, right? I don't know if can we say cut down these trees or trim these trees to the wall height or something like that. So there's legal concerns as to what we can do as a city. Where do we overstep or where do we not overstep? But this is something I think that, you know, we said quick hitters for the Citizen Advisory Committee. This is something the Citizens Advisory Committee can work on with the city attorney, come back with a recommendation. I would be, if it's legal, I would be in favor on these type of lots, say that, you know, maybe the wall is as high as you can go. You know, there's just no reason to go up this high because you're just destroying, you know, a beautiful view. The other school of thought is, I'm the neighbor and I want my privacy, you know, so I don't know where we're going with this one. But we have a citizen advisory committee that basically will research this, meet on it, kind of get their opinions. A lot of them, the good thing is our boat have, you know, waterfront properties, so I think they'll be sympathetic towards what's going on and see what they come back with. And then the next step would be for us either to amend the existing ordinance, which you kind of saw in process tonight. It's a two-process reading. We have to pass it once and then pass it a second time. And that's how it would change, if we're able to change it at all. So that's the best I can offer you because we're not empowered to just change it on the fly. And I wouldn't because there's definite legal concerns on this, you know. So it's not fine on this one.
I'm just trying to help you out and give you the.
You know what, go ahead, I'm going to yield to you on my time, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the other form of that is the code reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, and we do those on a frequent basis. We're trying to get into that habit and, you know, we change something and unexpected consequences.
And we've had a couple of those, so I guess I'm going to say move this one forward, because I don't think we have a code review planned in the near future. I did think about that, it actually says code review. Permission to take a citizen question. Anybody have a problem? Deborah, please come up here so it gets on the record.
I can speak kind of loud. I don't know if this is still the case, but we were a tree city, Valor Beach. I think we still are. Do you know, Lynn?
I think we are.
And so the only reason I'm saying this is because when Frontier, whoever it was, collapsed our driveway and we had to take out a tree and stuff, you have to get a permit to take out a tree if you are designated
I
tree
don't
city.
believe we're a tree city, correct, Mr. Reeves?
So,
We're not a tree city.
we were then, so.
Not now.
Okay.
We haven't been since I moved here.
There's nothing in the code about trees or permits, so I don't know.
It's actually been that way for a long time. It goes back to when I bought my property in 2005.
It goes back farther than that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the city of Valor Beach was ever a tree city.
No, we weren't. I know I checked because I was removing a tree that was going to block my view, and they said, nope, you don't have to do it. I did plant another. Actually, I planted 2 trees to replace it. So, let's talk about that 7th Street pier, 7th Street pumping station. I have a real good recollection of how that happened, and I've said this story several times. June Van Scoy and I were shopping in Sam's Club, and she introduced me to County Commissioner Long. And I met with her, and I knew that was a problem. And Lynn Reeves will attest to this. One of the things he told me when I was running as mayor, don't waste your, well, I wasn't mayor, he goes, don't waste your time. We've been trying for 20 years to get that fixed, and it can't be fixed. And I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. I met her in a Sam's Club. She was trying to buy her steaks, I think, and I was like, you're not going to buy them yet. I need to talk to you about 7th Street. Turns out that it was coming up, and she agreed to shepherd this thing through. And if you remember, Lynn, you and I went right afterwards to meet with the people in the county. and we were able to bring this project home. It was 1.7 million, 1.8 million, I'll round it to 2 million. They originally thought it would stop all the flooding. If you lived in that area, every time we got heavy rains, we had these big sewer trucks that just went 24/7, jet pumps. No one could sleep. It was horrible. People were just going crazy. And it's really reduced that, almost to the point that I don't think we've seen one in quite some time. So it still may happen if they get an exceptional one. They thought it might undo it, but that was $2 million, and that was because of a meeting in Sam's Club with myself and the county commissioner and June Van Scoy, and a trip to the county with Lynn Reeves. So that's how we got that. I remember it well. And it didn't cost us a nickel. With that said, I don't think I have any other comments other than have a Merry Christmas. If you celebrated Hanukkah, I hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah, a wonderful New Year, and any other holidays that you might be celebrating. I hope I answered your questions for you. If not, I'll be here afterwards and you can talk with me. Okay? I'll see everybody in the new year, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Everyone, happy holidays.